Yo, welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of mushrooms and the people who love them. From expert cultivators to passionate foragers, we bring you deep conversations, cutting-edge insights, and everything mycology. Whether you're a seasoned mycophile or just curious, we invite you to geek out with us on the wonders of fungi and join the mushroom movement.
Camera action, we ready to roll. Alright, faces everybody, let's put on a good show.
I'm sick of your talking, you got the wrong one. I'm taking your king and I leave him broken. If I am in second, it's after no one. Just give me a second to let them know. I'm the headline, the deadline. Big time. I'm ahead time, the rare kind. Big time. I'm a living legend, lethal weapon, mastermind. Big time.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast, the podcast that goes deep so you can level up your at-home mushroom cultivation game. I'm your host, MycoGeeky. We got, that package said it all. We got a living legend in the house. We're gonna. He snuck on the show here and there in the past, but he's never gotten the full real estate that he deserves until tonight. So get ready. We are going to go all in on the one and only WillyMyco. Want to quick give a shout out to Stealthy Spores Man. He's got a new deck out. Going to promote this fall deck, 2024 fall deck. That means he's now up to 4 decks. He's got all the seasons, man. Any season you want, he's got it. And then something he just advertised the other day that kind of blew my mind. Now he'd sent me some decks before, and I got some genetics from him as well here and there. But I guess he's got this new thing, this ultimate bundle pack. So basically, if you buy all 4 decks, you get a mat and a binder. He's got a new binder. Guess what else you get? Oh, not much. Just 50 premium choice genetics. That's it. So go check out stealthysports.com, see if that's for you. Man, I play the card game pretty frequently. Play it with the homies, play it with my one daughter. She likes to play it. We'll be playing Pokemon sometimes, and she's like, "Oh, let's play Stealthy Sports card game." So it's good fun for the whole family. You got to teach them young, got to teach them how to grow the entheogens. You know what I mean? That's what I think me and my guests are all about these days. So check that out. Also want to shout out my buddy False Send Organics. He wanted to send me, he's got a new chocolate bar. But it's got lion's mane, reishi, and cordyceps. Oh, and turkey tail. And man, this dude was freaking out. He was like, "Man, I don't know if it's gonna make it. I don't know if it's gonna make it, if it's gonna melt." I'm like, "Bro, it's cold out. You'll be fine." So anyway, he sent me this chocolate bar, Daily Bliss chocolate. I'm about to give it a try this week, see if it's any good. Anyway, so shout out to him. Also shout out to Pheno Dreamers, the homie. If you want some weird shit, he's got it. He sent me a bunch of stuff, man. Look at all these plates. What do we got? We got a unique Zapatocorum. Not that I need any more of those, but I love you anyway, bud. Psilocybe subtropicalis. What else we got here? Tasmaniana from New Zealand. Shout out to Kane Barlow. Fermentaria. Man, I don't even know what Fermentaria is. He's sending me shit I never even heard of before. Gandolfiana. Another people have been talking about that one, but I guess I gotta grow it now. And then Aucklandii. Yeah, man, thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Giving me stuff to play with, ensuring that I do not have any free time in the foreseeable future. All right, so, when I got this podcast going, I knew I needed to start out strong, need to get some traction, need to get people, to pay attention. So I grabbed some select few who I knew people cared what they had to say. I thought it'd be a great chance to expose them a little more publicly than just be, behind the Facebook groups, and get to know them. That's what we've been doing for a couple years. but I've been saving some people in my back pocket for a while. And I gotta say, WillyMyco, this dude has been nothing but a mentor. When I ask for advice, he gives it. When I say, hey, you want to come on and talk about this for a hot minute? He is the easiest guy to deal with. He always has sage advice. I love this guy, and man, I don't know too many people who got a bad word to say about this guy. And I tell you what, these days, that's definitely saying something. That's always been saying something. But of recent, I think it's particularly important. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start off 2025 with somebody who has been around the block, been here for a long time, one of the, instrumental YouTube content creators are in the space. And I think for all those reasons, it was about that time. So without further ado, let me welcome to the show, the one and only WillyMyco. What's up, man?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, oh my God, today has been busy. My one kid has a science project I was helping out with. The other one needed her math homework corrected, man. So I was dad duties right up until about a half hour ago. Yeah, so
How many kids you
shifting
got?
gears. I got 3 kids.
Holy shit. Football team.
I'm outnumbered, dude. I'm outnumbered, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Congrats, man. That's awesome.
It's great. I tell people having kids is like having the coolest hobby in the world that you never get to stop doing until they graduate and get out of the house. Yes. That's how it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
All right, dude. So you've been around forever. I mean, I doubt anybody watching the show doesn't know who you are. I would wager to say 70 to 80% minimum, you were one of the very first educators that they encountered when they started trying to grow mushrooms. So I think in this case, it would be really cool to go way back before you ever started doing any of that, before the VHS tapes, before the like early camcorder YouTube videos, and paint a picture for me. That first myco memory, that first time you ever saw a mushroom, did it mean anything to you? Did it have any traction? Some people yes, some people no. And then kind of tell me about early WillyMyco and how you get into magic mushrooms in the first place.
Yeah. So, my first, and this is digging back, I never really thought about this, but like my first time ever seeing like a mushroom and thinking it was something special was probably playing Mario as a kid. I didn't understand it. I didn't comprehend it. I was just a little kid, but I remember seeing that, and obviously getting a mushroom made you bigger, so it was a good thing. So I think that's like my first mushroom related memory in any sense. But we ate a lot of mushrooms. My mom absolutely loves mushrooms, so she would cook with mushrooms. We would order food with mushrooms. So I grew up eating mushrooms. So I obviously love how they taste. So when I seen Mario growing from the mushrooms, it was pretty cool. As far as how that transitioned is really my mom, out of all people, was the one that opened my eyes to the possibilities of psychedelics in general, but especially mushrooms. When I was younger growing up, I thought differently than other kids. So a lot of people don't know this. They see me now and they know like I have a great education, and some people, and I'm not speaking for myself, would say I'm an intellectual person. I'm intelligent, but I have dyslexia. And I also have OCD. So it's something I dealt with my whole life. I always thought different. I didn't think like the kids that were around me, my friends. So one of the things I always pondered about was what happens when we die, like, and I could remember the moment I first comprehended death, and something triggered in my brain to where it just blew my mind, because I'm like, wait, is this it? and I was probably about 7 years old, and I was coming out of the hospital with my grandmother, and my grandmother needed a kidney transplant, and she had kidney disease, and she was on the waiting list to get that donation for a long time. And I remember the fear of coming out of that appointment with her because of how serious the doctor made it sound. I never comprehended how serious this was. Kids don't comprehend
Right.
death. So when I went to this appointment with her, and it was just me and her, and I listened to her doctor talk, and it was really like a life or death thing. Him telling her that she had been on for so many years, and that, you know, she was already doing dialysis 3 times a week, and her body wasn't doing very well. And that fear of losing my grandmother at that age hit me like a stack of bricks. And I remember thinking, is this it? Like, do we get sick? Do we just die? Like, I've always thought heaven, hell, there's a God, there's Jesus, and there's this or whatever. Like, but is this really it? And that transitioned into me trying to search for that answer. I would go to church occasionally with my family, and I would just sit on the pews, and I would just think to myself, like, a lot of this stuff they're telling me sounds like Harry Potter books, which was something that I would read at that time as a child. And it just was ridiculous. And I'm like, maybe it's real, maybe it's not, but it just sounds so fantastical. It just sounds like, you know, walking on water and turning water to wine and this. And I'm just like, it's amazing. Like, you know, it's the best magic show on the face of the planet. And I'm like, there has to be more than this. So it started me on this quest, and I never really knew about like the occult or the paranormal or anything like that because I was just a kid. And my aunt and uncle, who were much closer to me in age, that I looked up to because they were so cool in my head. Like these were the cool aunt and uncle, and I loved being with them on the weekends, like sleepovers and stuff. You know, my uncle was the first person I ever smoked a joint with, and you know, he gave me my first little sip of beer and stuff like that. So like these were the cool aunt and uncle. They seen that I had an interest in, you know, what the universe is made of, what's after this, what are we, and they started feeding me all of these books and documentaries that I've never seen or heard of before about the paranormal and astral projection and UFO, and then, you know, all these things. And I'm just like, it just opened up my whole world. And then when my mom and dad got a divorce, it was a terrible divorce, very bad. When I was 13, 14 years old, I ended up becoming really close to my mom. And that's when she started opening up about her psychedelic experiences growing up as a kid in, you know, the late 60s, 70s. And she started telling me about the things that she experienced and the leaving her body and this other consciousness. And just the light bulb went off in my head at that point. You know, I was like, this could be what heaven is, or this could be the afterlife. What if we just separate from our body and we could experience that right now? And as soon as she told me all these amazing stories, that was it. It was a fucking inferno. And I was going 100 miles an hour towards it.
All right. So first off, let me just like wrap my head around the fact that your mom is so cool that at 13, after a shitty divorce, she's like connecting with you. She's like, okay, you know, I don't know if like the normal family, you know, broke down. So now she just like operating outside of social norms. And she's like, you know what? You're my kid. I'm just going to tell you the truth. What that is like to get that. I was doing that kind of soul searching at that age, but I definitely did not have a mother who was like, yo, let me tell you about magic mushrooms. Let me tell you about LSD. Let me tell you about that. How did that shape so, you know, take me from 13 to, you know, 18, 20, somewhere around there. Like, what does it look like? Was she like, this shit's amazing, go check it out at 13? Was she like, it's cool, but wait, like, I'm curious how that, as a parent, I'm curious how that really panned out.
All right, so two things. My mom actually flew down. I'm in Puerto Rico right now. My mom flew down for Christmas, and she's here right now. So if you want to ask her yourself, you could ask me yourself.
Nice.
But so if you want to meet Mama Myco, you just let me know. But so she told me this, and it sparked something in me. So what I ended up doing was I started at the time. We had the internet, but like it wasn't like we didn't have it at our fingertips. Like, you know, we got our phone. So I went to the library at school, the public library, and I just started grabbing anything and everything I could on psychedelics in general. So whether that was to do with the cultivation of psilocybin mushrooms, like the Mushroom Bible or anything like that, or Terrence McKenna's books. I even had some of his cassettes that were at the library that I could listen to some of his speeches and some of his things that he did. And I just fully immersed myself. And what I realized at that time, even when my mom told me that at 13, 14 years old, it wasn't easy to find mushrooms or anything like that, especially where I came from. So I came from a really, really rough place. At one point, it was like the 11th most dangerous city in the entire country. You know, I lost a lot of friends to murder, a lot of friends to drugs. You know, some of my friends became police officers. I grew up in one of those type of cities where it just, you know, it was just drastic differences on which path you went. And, you know, I couldn't find mushrooms. I wanted to try them, but I couldn't find them. And so I'm like, I'm going to learn how to grow these if that's even possible. The first thing I wanted to do was go out and find them. But I realized without the knowledge behind it or living in the correct place, like so in Massachusetts, it's not that common. You're not going to find a cubensis or something. I don't live in that type of place. We got like jimps, like laughing jimps. We got Anemita, stuff like that. But it has to be the right time of the year. And I didn't know any of that stuff yet. So I'm like, I'm going to learn how to grow these. So what I did was I dove into the books and I started doing BRF grows. And when I finally did get my first grow to happen, I was very open with my mom and told her what I was doing. And, you know, she was all right with it as long as I wasn't just wandering the streets or doing something stupid. If I was going to do something, it was going to be under her roof, under her supervision, where she could watch me and make sure everything was all right. Because as a kid and as a parent, me and my mom were only 19 years apart. So I think my mom realizes that you can't control your kids are going to do what they're going to do regardless. It's your job as a parent to make sure they're doing it safely and that they come back home. That's it, right? If a kid's gonna drink or a kid's gonna smoke weed or try mushroom, they're gonna do it regardless. Even if you fucking scream at the top of your lungs, it might even make them want to go do it more. So what your job is just to say, okay, look, you level with them, you be real with them, you give them all the knowledge you have on it and how they could be safe, and give them that opportunity to decide for themselves if this is for them. Now, if, you know, for instance, your kid comes to you and says, I want to try heroin, I'll break your teeth, right? Like you're not going to do it, right? But at the end of the day, if it's something that you know isn't going to destroy their lives, they're not going to become addicted to it. It's like, okay, I got to kind of like let you walk through this. And if you want to take mushrooms, let's do it together. I'll be there with you and we'll go through this together. But so that was really my mom's approach to it. She was very open with me. I had already been through so much with this divorce. I was the oldest of three. And she just kind of wanted to feed my interest because, like I said, I wanted to know what comes after this. I knew there had to be more to life than just you live and you die. But I didn't generally subscribe to the biblical explanation of everything, or the Quran explanation of everything, or the Torah, whatever. I knew there had to be more to it. And that's pretty much where it all started. I started growing, I was around 13, 14 years old, in high school. I lived with my aunt and uncle for a portion of that while because we was homeless. So when my mother and my father divorced, my father just kind of ghosted us, and he went to go live with his brother out of state, and we were homeless. My mother went to go live with her sister and took my sisters with her, and I stayed behind with my dad until one day I woke up and he was just gone. And then I was by myself. And I could have went with my mom, but when my aunt and uncle, the cool ones that would feed me the books on the paranormal and all this stuff, found out what had happened, they were there right away. And they're like, you're coming home with us. They never had a child of their own, so they looked at me as their son. And I'm so grateful to them because they just brought what I wanted to do to the next level because, they're the best. So yeah, and
Man.
all through high school, yeah, just studying, growing. I did my first DMT extraction in high school, and it just started to get bigger and bigger from there. And I'm like, I really need to know the science behind this, not just how to do it. And that's my life just went more from there.
Wow, man. Dude, I think the first time I saw a magic mushroom, I think it was 18, maybe somewhere between 18 and 19. And it was so hard to get that just when my one buddy could get them from this guy, we all, whoever was there, we just ate them all. But I never had the thought, well, shit, it's just a mushroom. I should grow this. So good for you, man, to go, no, these are living things. Maybe I can grow them. That is, I don't know. My life would have been radically different if I started growing mushrooms at 13. I know that. So that is really cool to hear. And you know what? Actually, I have a friend who had a similar experience. Little specifics are different, but a lot of times when you have the destabilizing family situations, it's really cool. A lot of times other family members do step up to the plate, whether it's a grandmother or you got real lucky, man. You got to live with the cool aunt and uncle. That's a dream come true. That's very cool.
Yeah,
And
I could never repay them, man. Like what they did for me. So when my mom and father divorced, I was always very intelligent and very good in school. I did get suspended a lot. I don't like bullies. And I was getting suspended all the time. I would knock people's teeth out because I wouldn't let them pick on people in my presence. I didn't care. That's just what it was. And I hated when a person can't stand up for themselves and people just beat them down. So I love it, man. I've been boxing since I was 9 years old. So I love it, man. Every time they would call my mom and they're like, look, he's in the office again. We're going to suspend him for 3 days. And it just got to the point to where it got out of control. And I'll get into that story in a sec, like how I ended up actually graduating high school, even with all the physical altercations I got into. But things were going downhill. Like I withdrew when my parents divorced because just my outside life, my home life was so chaotic. And my aunt and uncle seen that. And so what ended up happening was when they took me in, just everything started to get better from there again. Like my social life picked back up. I was happy to be at school again because I loved being at school. It's just, with my anger towards bullies and then everything that was going on at home, like it was a problem. Like if you was in my way and you was doing something to hurt another person, like, and I'm still that way. Like I won't stand by and watch somebody get beat up on or get bullied. It just is what it is. Like we're going to go a couple rounds and whoever walks away from it walks away from it.
Well, the world needs more of that. Yeah, man. I remember. So I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, a lot of fights. I wasn't in the inner city. I was in kind of a smaller town, but there weren't really maybe like a couple of one dude's friends would be there, and like maybe another guy. Like 5 people if 2 kids ended up getting in a fight, but there were no like viewing parties. Not like now you see these like school videos where like the whole school shows up. It's like their evening entertainment. And I'm like, what happened? Like This is, people can have beef, but it's not your evening entertainment. Like, just there's somebody, sometimes it's getting really hurt and you guys are just sitting there watching this shit happen. Yeah. So good for you, man. That's the way to be. 100%.
Yeah.
And getting in trouble in school, who gives a shit? All that matters is the grades,
Well,
Show up,
that's
do
the
the
thing.
work.
So
Yeah.
they it literally like got to the point to where they're like, look, he's a great student. Like his grades are amazing. But like he keeps getting into fights and my mom, I explained it to her, like, look, this is what it is. Like, I just don't want to see people get bullied. Like, and I can't stand that. What's that make me, right? Like, if I stand there and I see this kid get picked on by a bigger kid or a couple kids and I just walk away, like, you're just as much to blame in that situation. And I could only imagine how terrified that kid was in that situation because I felt that way with an abusive father. So like it's like when I know that fear and I'm not going to let that happen. So like the dean of my school and the principal were like, look, man, this is what we're going to do. You're going to take this test and this test is going to tell us where you are academically, like where you rank. And from there, we're going to decide what we're going to do with you. So I did this test. I don't know if it was like a standardized test that all schools use or something, but it was just me. The test took like 4 hours. I sat there and ended up passing the test, obviously. But when it came to science, now this was in the 9th grade. When it came to science, they're like, he's ranking where he should be in his 2nd year of college on science. So they're like, we got 2 things. We could bump them up to get them through the school faster, or we could put them in this program called Pathways. And what Pathways was so pretty much, let's say school goes from 7 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What would end up happening is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 o'clock at night, Pathways would start in the school. So it was a much smaller group of people. And most of these people were people like girls that had children very young that had to be there during the day for their child and couldn't go to school and stuff like that. They're like, so we could do that. I wanted to go with the bump me up, get me through this faster, but my mother was like, no, I really want you to enjoy these years of high school because you're going to experience so much. And she knew that, but I didn't realize that when I was a kid. I'm like, just get me through it. Like, let's get it done. I don't need to come back to the school. But she was like, no, like junior prom and all the experiences you're going to have, like you need to be here and experience that. So I ended up doing Pathways, and I was in there from 9th grade to 12th grade. And then when I graduated with my regular class.
Nice. Yeah, dude, the parents sometimes, you want to run away from home, you want to scream and yell at them. I did plenty of that, but then in hindsight, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just who wants to be Doogie Howser? You want to be some weird 13-year-old kid in college? It's just weird. And then what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Probably not good things. There's some things that just need like a natural pace. But what I wish school could figure out how to do is how to both successfully cater to people who need more help, kids that need more help or need to learn in different ways. And then also just the kids that are just picking it up quick and go. Both of those extremes should be able to be attended to in K through 12, and it's just not. It's really geared for like the middle of the road kid. And so the smart, the really talented and gifted kids suffer, and the people who are going through shit at home suffer, and the kids who learn different ways suffer. And yeah, it's too bad. But you found Pathways. That's cool. And you had somebody try to, they recognized the talent in science and said, okay, come on, let's forgive. Let's forgive this thing and move them into
it was great.
That's pretty
great. Pathways was great, man. It was like the friggin' odd bunch It was the best, man. Like I met so many good people in pathways. Like, and it was just they called it pathways. I don't know why they called it that, but and I'm not even sure if it's still a thing that they do. But like that's how I got through 9 through 12, and
Nice.
it was the best thing. But I got to do my junior prom, my prom, and
So,
all that, and then also do my MCAS, which I don't think they do MCAS anymore, but I got to do it. And because I scored so high on that, I ended up getting a free 4-year scholarship to college.
nice.
So it ended up working out, me staying.
That's great, man. So you go to college. What are you studying at college?
Yeah, so obviously my passion for psychedelics by the time I graduated were like full blown. I had changed my whole life around. I wasn't how I am now. So I ended up coming up with this thing that I just do, and I'm not saying everybody has to do it, but I cut all negative people out of my life. So, like, if you're a negative person, I just don't want you near me. You're not a bad person. I wish you the best, but like, I don't want you near me. I don't care if you're broke. I don't care if you're dealing with medical conditions. I don't care if you got 20 kids. As long as you're a positive person and you're trying to improve your life, I feel like we all feed off of each other. And I just don't want negativity around me because I feel like negativity only brings negativity. So around 10th grade, I ended up, having to separate from a lot of friends that were doing negative shit. And I'm not saying they were wrong. They felt like that's what they had to do and cool, but I just didn't want no part of it. So I ended up going in a different direction. And I'm like, look, when I get out of here, I've learned as much as I could learn from the books and the internet that I could possibly get my hands on. I want to learn the science. I really want to get out there in the field and I really want to learn this. So I ended up getting a 4-year scholarship to any state college or university that I wanted to go to. So I ended up picking the University of Massachusetts and I ended up going in for microbiology for my bachelor's. And that's because they didn't have a mycology program or anything like that at the time. Now I think they do, but they didn't then. So I went into microbiology and then I ended up just working with professors and stuff like that that were really deep into mycology. And they just opened up my
Hmm.
whole world. I got to go on a ton of foraging expeditions with them, learning from them, being there when they were running experiments or doing projects. And that just opened up my eyes to how big the world of just microorganisms, whether it's mycology or bacteria or molds or whatever, is it's just so vast and amazing. And part of the reason the world operates the way it does, and probably the reason it will operate 100 years from now, is because of mycelium, because of fungi. It contributes just as much nutrients to the earth and oxygen and carbon dioxide and stuff like as trees or coral in the ocean. So it's very important. It breaks down debris and trash and returns nutrients to the earth. So it's an amazing, amazing thing. Opened up my eyes. And by the time I finished up my 4 years for microbiology, I figured, all right, I'm good with mycology. I feel like I'm good there. Now I want to learn about other substances. I want to learn about LSD. I want to learn about mescaline. I want to learn about 2CB. I want to learn about chemistry because not only do I want to learn how to make it and be able to do that, but I also want to learn about the scientific side of it, how it affects us as far as our anatomy, our neurologically. I want to know how it affects us. So what I ended up doing was when I graduated with my bachelor's from UMass, I ended up taking a year or two, well, almost 2 years off of school because I wasn't really sure. I didn't really have the money to, go get my graduate degree. So I traveled and I went to Africa. I went to South America. I went to Asia. And what my purpose with that was just trying to immerse myself into cultures and learn about their religious beliefs, their spiritual beliefs. I went to India. I went to, Laos. I went to Cambodia. I went to Peru, Argentina. I just went all over. And it was one of the greatest things I ever did because I learned so much in those almost 2 years than I could have learned a lifetime from books. And I only came back because my uncle had passed away. The uncle that took me in. He passed away very young at 36 years old on his birthday. And it was just, nobody expected it. And I got the call when I was there, and at that point, I hadn't spoken to my uncle who raised me as his own child in almost a year, just because life gets in the way, girls and traveling, and, you just get wrapped up in your own life, and you're doing your thing, and time just goes by. And by the time you realize how much time went by, you're like, holy shit. And when I got that call, it was like deafening. And I was on the other side of the world when that happened. And it felt like a bad dream, but I felt if I hopped on a flight right now and got back, that I could fix this, that it would all be fixed. That's the way your mind works. And that dove me deeper into the spiritual side of things. And my greatest DMT breakthrough involves my uncle. And it was one of the most eye-opening experiences I ever had. And so when I got back, I got really depressed. I got really down on myself. I felt like I let him down when he was there for me. When I was a kid, I wasn't there for him when he needed me. And, oh man, it was just an ugly time. I hated even being alive. I hate saying that, but like, that's just how I felt at the time. And then I had that DMT experience, and he came to me, and what he told me in that experience and showed me in that experience relieved all the guilt. It took everything away. And I came back, and I'm like, all right, I got to pursue what I'm supposed to pursue as far as doing this. So when I came back and I was able to get to it, I ended up I ended up taking out student loans to the brim, and I ended up going to school for organic drug synthesis through the Harvard Extension School. And I paid my way through that. And 2 years later, I graduated, and then I started working for a pharmaceutical company.
Wow, dude. So before we I want to go back a little bit. That traveling, and not just like one, 2 weeks in Hawaii, 1 week in Vietnam. You were gone for like almost 2 years, just roaming, just going everywhere. I know how travel has impacted me, but tell everybody who doesn't travel what doing that kind of traveling does to your perspective, what it does to how you relate to people, what it does to your spiritual understanding of life.
Yeah, it was just amazing. Look, when I did that, it was more like, I need to see the world. I had only seen what was around me. But like, in order for me to really understand the spiritual side of people using psychedelics as a religious sacrament, or as a way to communicate with the gods, like, what Maria Sabina's rituals, or going, into India, with their rituals, I had to go and see it for myself and experience it. I literally just a backpack, a duffel bag, and I was on my way. And I didn't know where I was going. The first place I ended up just randomly was in London, Heathrow Airport. And then from there, I flew into Europe. And from there, I just started catching trains and planes, and I would stay somewhere for a month, and then I'd leave for a couple days and find myself somewhere else. And I really just immersed myself into the cultures where I was. I didn't care about money because I didn't have much money. I just wanted to experience culture, and I felt like no amount of money could have been able to give me the experiences that I had. No university could have given me that knowledge and those experiences. And I learned so much about the value behind some of these substances, and the importance of these substances to these cultures. I mean, some of these cultures have been using some of these substances for thousands and thousands of years. and it's documented. It's not just passed down from one generation to the next. There's paintings, there's carvings, there's stuff, and then it's passed down from one family member to the next. And these people have been in the same place for thousands of years with this knowledge, and it was just the most amazing thing. I remember the first time I went down to Peru, and I tricked one of my friends to go to Peru with me, to go into the jungle and do an actual Shibibu ayahuasca ceremony. And he was so infuriated with me, but like, he was the one that had money and I didn't. I needed him to pay for it, and we ended up getting into Lima, and we didn't know what we was gonna do. I told him, we're gonna have so much fun, we'll go to the clubs, we'll do this. And we ended up in this market in Lima, and I ended up finding somebody that's selling ayahuasca at this market. And I'm like, I don't want to buy it and take it from you. I want to go experience it. And I would pay you if you could take me to the people that make it and make that introduction. So I ended up meeting this person and working with them and talking to them and taking care of them a little bit. And they ended up taking us. And we got to spend about a week at this place at a camp and be with the people and go through the ceremony and harvest the materials we needed to make the ayahuasca and learn about the significance of it. And it was, when that all took place, my friend was so happy after that, because he had just gained something that you couldn't pay $1 million for. Like, it took all the stars lining up right for us to be able to meet this person and for them to know where to go and to do it the right way. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences.
So cool, dude. And there's much to be said. Now, I mean, at 48, I don't think I'm traveling this way anymore. But when you're young and you can just throw a backpack on your back and just go for it, you are gonna get, wherever you go, you're gonna get to see that place very differently than if you show up and go into the resort and hang out in the hotel and sit at the private pool. You're just, and you connect to people differently, because if you're just throwing money around, you're just not connecting. So I love that story because it shows how you just relate to people differently. You talk to them, you ask them questions, you tell them what you want to do and see, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see that. There's a guy that I follow on YouTube that just roams around and he does a little travel vlog, but it's so different because it's not just like a couple that likes to look at themselves in the mirror and they go to all these cool places and make you feel jealous that you're not there. It's just like a dude doing exactly what you're talking about. Just who the fuck knows where he's going to be tomorrow? And then he's there, and what's he going to do? He has no agenda for the video. It's like, oh, here's a guy working on his motorcycle. I'm going to go talk to that guy. And the next thing you know, he like has dinner with that whole family and like here's their whole story. And I'm like, God, I love this channel. This is so cool because it's just so, it's like how mycelium works, right? It's just, it moves around. It's not water. It's not the path of least resistance. It's just kind of roaming around and finding its way. And I think we could all, my day didn't go the way I planned it today. And at a certain point, I was getting frustrated and I had to be like, okay, well, this is what today is. So we'll just take a deep breath and deal with the day as it is. It's
Absolutely
how you get through things. All right. Well, so let's do this. Since you had that travel period, which, by the way, anybody listening, if you are young, and you are unencumbered and you are not married and you don't have kids, drop everything and go travel if you haven't already done it. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. Drop everything, quit your job, travel the world. If you do not have a real world understanding of how fucking huge the world is and how many people are in it, living radically different lives than you, go experience that. It's incredible. And look what it did for you. You came back, you were reinvigorated. You found the clarity, right? Like you found a focus. To
be honest with you, I probably would have stayed longer, but that call I got from my aunt telling
really
me that
pulled
my
you.
uncle had passed. Yeah, that was just like, get home now. Like,
Yeah.
and you know, that was like, all right, pulling the plug on this past almost 2 years of just going all around the world. When I got home, like I said, very depressed. And I had tried DMT times leading up to this and stuff like that, but never had a breakthrough. And then one day, feeling depressed, it just something came to me, and it's like, now's the time to try it. And you know, this is the moment. I don't know if it was my subconscious. I don't know if it was the universe. I don't know. But I had everything I needed, and I did my DMT, and I have a book that's coming out pretty much detailing the entire process of what I did. And I went into this experience, and when I had this breakthrough, I found myself in front of my uncle, and he was there, and he looked so good, man. Like, he looked so fucking good. Like, his skin was glowing and just perfectly dressed and just great. He looked phenomenal. And the only thing was, he had like a small mark right here in the middle of his forehead, and it looked like a cut. And I asked him in this experience, I said, what's that? What happened? And he said, oh, this. And he touched his head, and then he touched my head in the same place. And when he touched me in my head, it's like I went through every moment I ever had with him. I relived it. I seen it. I was there again. And just all the great moments that from childhood leading up, it was the most amazing thing. And when he took his finger off, I kind of went back like this, and he said, this, it's nothing, he said to me. Like, and I'm like, okay. But like, when he touched his and then touched mine, it's like this transfer of energy, of power just went into me, and just all the great things. And when I came out of that experience, one of the things he left me with was this. He said, I need you to do me a favor. When you see your aunt, tell her Peacock Amanda is a great name. I didn't understand that. That made no sense to me, but this is what he left me with. And I had to tell her, like, he's told me this. So when I came out of this experience, one, I felt like just the weight was gone. He reassured me, it's okay. I love you. Like, I'm good. Like, don't worry about what happened. Think about all the great things that happened. And I really took that away from this. But now I had this mission he left me with to go tell my aunt. And it had been a decent amount of time since he passed. And I didn't understand what he was saying, but now I have to go tell my aunt that is completely devastated about this experience I just had with my uncle that she loved to death, and explain to her what he had told me, even though it made no sense to me. So I call my aunt on the phone. She's living in a different state at this time. And I say, Auntie, I'm like, first, she already knew I was into psychedelics and my whole past and all that, but she doesn't know about DMT breakthroughs. And so I had to first preface it with saying, look, this is what a DMT breakthrough is, and this is what, and I had to school her on that before I even got into the experience. And when I got into the experience, and I said, look, he told me to tell you this, and it makes no sense, and you probably make no sense to you, but I have to tell you. And when I told her what he told me, the phone went silent. Like, I thought she hanged up. And then all of a sudden I could hear her crying, like sniffling, choking, like just so choked up. And she's asking my family calls me a nickname. I'm not going to say that nickname, but my family calls me a nickname. And she says this nickname. She says, how is this possible? Are you fucking with me right now? And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you. I have to tell you. You told me to tell you. Like, and then she ended up breaking it down. And I told you he passed away on his birthday. So that night of his birthday, they were out, and I'm on the other side of the world at this point. I'm nowhere around. So there they went out for dinner, they went out for drinks, whatever. And they were talking that night about if they had a child, what would they name that child? And they talked a couple names, but when they talked about what would you name our daughter, my aunt said, I would like to name our daughter Amanda. And my uncle's like, I hate that name. He was just like kind of a ball buster and he was just fucking with her. But that's where it left off. And the peacock thing was a pet name that he would call my aunt, but I never knew that. So this was my uncle's way of making sure that she believed me, and wow. It gave some validation to this experience. So my aunt ends up having a child, remarrying, and a daughter, and she named it Amanda.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have never had a surreal experience like that sort of confirms, a supernatural quality to life, but I have heard firsthand from several people, including a couple relatives, and they're absolutely credible people. There's no fucking way they're lying or making it up. There are things that happen in life that are just little clues to let you know there is other realms, there are other realities, there's something else, whether we're a big alien experiment, whether there is a God, whether there's something that we can't even comprehend or fathom. The psychedelics make our brains work differently, gives us access to other things, other frequencies, whatever you want to call it. And it is so cool hearing, I'm sure you've heard a million trip stories, and there are good ones and there are boring ones, but I love the ones that make me have to confront my own skepticism about the afterlife and things like that. In an honest way, not in a, oh, I'm from the holy church and you should believe, but just like, yo, I did this thing. This is what happened. My uncle said this, I'm in the freaking waiting room after a DMT trip, and he said this, and the other thing. And I told my aunt, and her freaking mind is blown, and here's the full story. I mean, how do you explain that? That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's madness. Like leading up to that point, I never had an experience like that. I had close experiences with friends and loved ones, like from mushrooms and stuff, but never like this. And after that experience, it kind of solidified my beliefs in that whatever the creator of the universe may be, right? Whether that's God or Allah or whatever, I believe that these things were put here for us as a calling card to use to connect with that other side. And I think when we pass, and this is just my own beliefs, I believe we just separate from this me right here. We separate from this, but we live on. And we could experience that right now through the use of psychedelics. You see, like shaman and monks and stuff, they train their whole lives in their mental state to be able to get to that point without the use of substances. But because we don't train our whole lives to get to that point, this is kind of like the cheat code. Right. And you could experience that as long as you do things the right way. And you also, there's a lot of life changes that have to go into it. A lot of the way you see the world and think about the world, you have to kind of rewire yourself in order to get the most out of what they have to give. But these are calling cards, and that's why I call them the keys to the gods.
I love that, man. Yeah, I can tell you this. I grew up in church too, and I never once felt touched by God or connected to the Almighty Creator in a church. I did not at all, ever. And there are a handful of times I've experienced it stone cold sober. And the vast majority of the times that I've ever been inspired to believe in something like that has been through the use of psychedelics. So
Yeah, I think it's something tangible. And the best thing about it is the Bible talks about it, the Quran talks about it. They all talk about these substances, just a lot of people don't realize it. I spoke to a friend of mine that I love dearly, and they're very heavy into church now. And I explained this to them. And, in church, in the Bible, they talk about manna so many times in the Bible, right? Manna referring to bread. It was like a bread that they would eat, manna. And a lot of the times before Moses saw the burning bush, he ate manna. Before this, he ate manna. And that manna was made with ryegrass or in rye seeds and different types of grains that were contaminated with ergot, which is the precursor to LSD.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, they didn't know this, just grains of grains, right? Like they don't know nothing about psychedelics or anything like this. So they would eat this manna and then they would have a godlike experience. And you could see the correlation in the Bible. It's right there. If you believe the word of God, right? You have to believe what is written. And it says, ate manna, had an experience. Ate manna, had an experience. And that's just how I'm telling you that my belief is a lot of the bread that they were eating was contaminated with ergot, which is the precursor LSD, and they were having a psychedelic experience.
Oh, I'm with you 100% on that. I think we only know like 1 to 3% of all the ways that our ancestors, whether they knew it or not, whether it's being done on purpose or was accidental, were having these deeply profound experiences, not on their own, always with assistance from entheogenic substances that just, like you said, the cheat code just helps get you there. You're not getting there yourself. Here we go. Here's a little kick in the butt. Now, what do you know? There you are. You're face to face with your uncle, and he's absolving you of all your guilt that you didn't need to have in the first place. But you didn't matter what anybody told you. It took that DMT trip. It took that very significant experience to just, like you said, and this is, man, you read a lot of stuff about psychedelic assisted therapy now, and it's not like utterly miraculous, but it can just solve a problem like that. Like you said, you came out of the trip done, weight off my shoulders.
Yep.
I mean, how many?
Absolutely.
That's and that our society, and you just did a great video on this. I've had somebody else on the show talk in a similar vein, but like our government, man, for all the wrong reasons, trying to keep this out of everybody's hands. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it is ridiculous. It is.
Yeah. So for people watching, I know we got a lot of TTF supporters here, a lot of people in the Trip Team family, a lot of my regular viewers. If you guys have not watched some of the recent content Willy's been putting out over at Willy's World on YouTube, go check it out. He's got a cool MDMA video. He's got kind of like the behind the scenes on what your government has been doing for many, many decades to, write a narrative that just is not true. And most importantly, and we'll talk about this in a hot minute, he's been doing some pretty exciting stuff that from the sounds of the early years you're telling me about has been a long time coming and is probably the culmination of a lifelong dream. And so we're going to get into that for sure. But before we do that, let's go from those early years of getting through the chemistry of it all, and then you're done. Get me from there to you're like, I want to show people how to do some of this stuff on YouTube. I mean, because you were doing it before it was cool to do.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a process. So I graduate with my master's in organic drug synthesis. And what happens is when you're at a university getting your master's or your graduate degree in something like organic drug synthesis, you have what's called headhunters. They work with the universities and they ask the universities for prospective talent that they could bring to their company. So I had a few headhunters after me. My school had suggested me to a few different pharmaceutical companies. And I ended up going with one of these pharmaceutical companies directly out of college, a pharmaceutical company called Vertex Pharmaceutical. And when I started with them, they only had like 2 buildings in the seaport of Boston. Now they own like multiple city blocks. It's one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies there. We got, Purdue Pharmacy. We got Vertex. We got the people that make Viagra, whatever their name is. We got like every pharmaceutical company based in Boston. So I went to work for this pharmaceutical company, and coming straight out of my master's, being fucking poor as all hell, not having. I could talk to a homeless person, and they were worth over $100,000 more than me because I was over $100,000 in debt because of my student loans.
I know all about that. Yeah,
to the point to where in college for my master's, I took a job at a pizza place, making pizzas and stuff like that, just so I could eat for free because I didn't even have money to eat. The only time I ever had money is when FAFSA, which is like if you get any type of student loans, you guys probably know about FAFSA. And every few months you'll get a check for books and housing and stuff like that. And there's always a little bit of money left over. And that was the only time I had money, but that money had to go out so fast when it came in. So I worked at a pizza shop really close to the university, and I would make pizzas and eat for free. So when I came out, I went to go work for this pharmaceutical company, and starting this pharmaceutical company gave me a company apartment, a company car. So they owned a condo complex that they built from the ground up right across the street from the main building that they built for the employees to live there. So they literally could just walk out their door and walk across the street into the Vertex Pharmaceutical headquarters. So I had a company apartment, a company car that I didn't pay insurance, no car payment, nothing. And they were paying me $250,000 a year before bonuses. So I was like, great, like this is fucking fantastic. Like, coming from eating pizza 7 days a week and not really knowing where I was going to go now that I no longer was in school and I don't have a place to live. Of course, I could go with my mom, but, who wants to go live with their mom, right? So, like, especially at, that age. So I ended up going to work for this company, and I stood there for a while. And at this time, I was still heavy into all the psychedelic stuff, which has been a consistent through my life since I was like 13 years old. And so I would work, and then I'd come home, and I'd be on the message boards and stuff like that. There was no Discord. There was no YouTube creators like a WillyMyco or MycoGeeky or anything like that. It was just two message boards, Mycotopia and the Shrimmery. That was like it. There was nothing else. And I was on both of them for a long time, and I would contribute to these message boards, writing up texts, posting pictures of grows, and helping people out. And I just started to develop a distaste for these message boards because of the way they would treat the people. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're a new cultivator that's trying to learn, and luckily I started growing years before this, because if I would have started then and got into this and I come in and I say, hey guys, can somebody just walk me through how to make a spore syringe or how to make a spore print, or what's the best place for me to start cultivating on a budget? and somebody responded to me, use the search bar, you fucking idiot. This thing has been asked a million times or whatever. I'd be like, all right, shut my computer. I'm done with this. I'm done. I would see this over and over and over. And what I always would do, because I'm the person that always wants to help the person that's being bullied, I would not only help that person, but then, of course, the person that always was giving them shit was, verified cultivator or whatever, like, somebody that's very respected on the message boards. And I'd write to them, you're a fucking idiot. You're a piece of shit, like this person. And it caused a lot of problems for me because these people don't like that. A lot of these guys are older guys that have been doing this stuff since the 60s, the 70s, High Times magazine type shit. Yeah. And, I was just like, I'm done with this. I hate this whole thing. I thought this was supposed to be a community of love, and it's nothing like that. I grew up to the stories my mom told me and hearing about the love and the connection and the groups taking the LSD or the mushrooms at these music festivals. And I'm like, that's what I love. That's right there, the connection, the communities part of it, the spiritual side of it. This isn't it. This isn't it. So I was like, you know what? I seen people asking questions on how to make a sports syringe and, where do I start growing first? Like, where to start off? I'm like, these questions get asked all the time. There was this, website, YouTube, and I'm like, I'm going to film videos of how to do that the right way and just put them out there to help people. That way when people ask, how do I do this? I could just say, hey, go check out this video. It's going to show you how to take care of that. So I did like 2 or 3 videos, super cringe. I was filming on like the first edition of the iPad. It was super cringe, but I was in my company apartment, tiny apartment, but nice. And I was still working at the pharmaceutical company. So I created these 2 to 3 videos, and then I just left YouTube. I put them out there. And I just went back to my regular life, working at the pharmaceutical company, still cultivating, still doing synthesis and extractions. And also at this pharmaceutical company, I was what was called an experimental medicine tech. So I would work on experimental medications. So we created a couple cool things, but pretty much they would come to us, and we had a group. So what my group was responsible for is if they came to me and they said, hey, Willie, we need to get vitamin C in large quantities. What's the most effective way for us to do that? And I would say, okay, get this, and then we could run this simple synthesis on it and extract the vitamin C. And then it gets passed along to the next department that's working on a different part of the pharmaceutical that they're developing, and it moves its way down the chain until the medicine is done, and now they could start doing trials on that medicine. So what we was working on, I never knew what the next team was working on. They never knew what we was working on, and vice versa. And so we was all compartmentalized. We was all kept in our own little box, and they would just say, hey, this is what we need done. How can we do it? All right, this is how you do it. Pass it along. And that was it. And so that was my job. But I was getting to go to these conferences, and I was making good money, and I had a free apartment and a free car. So it was cool. I was good with it. Now, months and months went by. Probably almost a year went by. And remember, I left YouTube. I wasn't checking that original WillyMyco channel. I just had left and went back to my regular life. In my original videos, you'll even hear me say, guys, I work a regular job just like you guys, and I'm just talking, just shooting the shit. And I never wanted to call my followers fans. I feel like that's derogatory. It's like saying, you're my fan, you're beneath me, right? So I said, no, we're all the same. So one day I just popped out and I say, you guys are my Tryptine family. And it just, that grew bigger than WillyMyco itself. The Tryptine family is bigger than WillyMyco itself, hands down. Ask 10 people, more people know Tryptine family than WillyMyco. And they don't know I created it, but really it's its own organic thing that grew out of me just saying that in one of my videos. Because of the distaste for fan. I don't like that word. So year goes by, and I would work crazy hours at this pharmaceutical company. Sometimes I'd be working during the day. Sometimes I'd be working at night. Remember, I lived across the street, so I could just walk over. Had a key card. There was 24-hour-a-day security. I could just kind of like do my thing. But my key card only had access to 2 floors. I think. That's what they told us. It only had access to 2 floors. The floor I worked on, and then the floor the cafeteria was on. I never tried to get off at a different floor or anything like that. I seen other floors because I would get on the other elevator with other people, and they would get off, and I'd kind of like peek and see what's going on over there. And, you couldn't really see much. So one night I was working overnight, and I got hungry, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go down to the cafeteria. There's nobody working in the cafeteria at that time, but they still got like sandwiches and salads and stuff you could just kind of grab and go. So I'm going to go to the cafeteria. So the cafeteria was on the 7th floor, and I ended up getting off at the wrong floor, not paying attention. I was on my phone, and I'm going down, and the door's open, and I just got off, and I'm still on my phone until the door's shut, and then I realized this isn't the floor with the cafeteria, but there's really nobody else in the building, and now I'm on a floor that I never seen before. So I'm like, fuck this. I'm nosy as shit, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go explore. Who's going to stop me? There's nobody here. So I started walking around and peeking in other labs and just like kind of see what was going on. And I ended up opening up this door. And when I opened up this door to this room, there was these walls with what looked like microwaves, just stacked, built into the wall, just stacked on top of each other. And they just ran the whole wall. I'm like, what is this? So like, I'm a scientist. I've never seen this piece of equipment. So like, I'm opening them up, and there's nothing in some of them. And I'm just like looking, and then I open one up and I see like some powder in there. And I'm like, shit, should I open that up? Like, I don't know what that powder is. But then I seen what looked like something solid in it. And I was like, that's really weird. And I just shut it, and I went over to the next room, and in the next room, they had bunnies and rats and stuff. And then I connected the dots, and I'm like, they're burning, like incinerating the animals that they're testing the medicines on. So they have to test on animals before they go to human trials. So they would test them on, and then as soon as they test the animal, that animal's dead. That's it. I didn't know this. Now, remind you, I'm a vegetarian at the time. I have my dogs, my little dogs, and all I could think about was my little dogs that are about the size of a rabbit, right? And I'm freaking out, and I'm like, I live to me, what I consider ethical life. I'm kind to people. I always put other people first. I try to never let my head get too big, and I try to like always maintain balance and just. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm part of the problem here. Like, I'm working here. I'm getting paid good. Got this apartment, got this car. But now I'm part of a system that's just testing these animals, monitoring them for whatever, and then nuking them. And I can't do that. Like, I felt really bad about this. And I still feel bad about it. But I didn't know because that wasn't my job. And I went home that day, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't say anything to anybody. And I'm not stupid. I know this is general practice from shampoo companies to makeup companies to pharmaceuticals. They all do this. Anything that eventually makes its way to you has to be tested on animals first. And those animals get killed. So anything you buy, whether it's Advil, Tylenol, whatever, it was lipstick, mascara, was tested on an animal first, and that animal's dead now in order for it to make its way to human trials before it could be released to the public. That's the FDA. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I want to leave this job, but I can't leave this job. And something inside me was like, you know what? Fuck. I seen this video. And somebody had said that they made some money on YouTube. And I'm like, how did they do that? And then I was like, wait, let me check my YouTube after not having checked it for a year. So I went into my YouTube, and it had fucking blown up. Like
funny.
This was my first channel, and it had blown up. People saying, "Where's Willie? You know, where did Willie go?" And then I seen one of the comments that said, "Willie died." And I'm like, "What?" And then another person confirmed it, and another person. I'm like, "What's going on?" Somebody had started a rumor
Yeah.
that they know me and that I had died in a motorcycle or a car accident.
Oh my God.
One of the
Welcome
two.
to the internet, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know about any of that, right? Like, I'm just like, okay, like, I definitely didn't die. So I ended up coming back to YouTube. I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is feasible. I feel like I can make money doing this to support myself and continue doing what I love, which is this working in this space. And I could leave this fucking job that I now hate. And so I ended up going to my mom, going to my friends, and I ended up telling them this whole story I just told you and said, I'm going to put all my eggs in this content creator basket. And some friends, some family called me stupid and they left and they were angry because I was their meal ticket, right? Like I'm making $250,000 a year before bonuses, and you know, Willie's gonna be able to take care of us, and you know, and they were pissed and they were just like, no, fuck that, like, and they walked away, and I still haven't talked to them to this day. But my mom and a few friends stood by me and they said, we got your back, like, let's do it. Like, and I was all right, cool. I'm gonna do it. I put in my notice at the company. They kicked me out the fucking apartment right away. Took the car. Made me. I had already signed NDAs because to work there you have to sign NDAs.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much threatened me if I spoke anything about this. 10 years was the NDA length. And if I spoke anything about this before then, pretty much like they were gonna come take everything from me. So luckily I had been working there for a little bit. I had some money saved up, so I had a little bit of a cushion to really make this work. And it worked. So I got the last laugh. So all those people that walked away from me, they were wrong. And the few people that did believe in me, they're sitting in my living room right now. And I take care of them like they're my kids.
Hey, dude, all I know is you were a pioneer in it. You were willing to show people stuff that they read in a book, but you know, like you figured out traveling, you can read a book about it or you can see it, and everybody would of course rather see it. So talk me through what it was like in the early years, getting content up, having content taken away. I think we've talked privately about this a little bit, and I think it would be worth letting people know that it wasn't an easy road.
Yeah. So in the early days of YouTube, especially creating content like this, it was like walking on the moon or walking on Mars. We really didn't know what to expect. You know, so when I fully dove into creating content, my content started ramping up, and I was pretty crazy. Like some of the stuff I do understand. I was releasing stuff like, man, I had DMT extractions on YouTube, and I had, you know, how to, you know, extract psilocybin, and like I was, and not just like literally the most detailed grow videos, like, you know, step by step by step, like without leaving a detail out. And for like a year, YouTube really didn't give me any shit. They didn't give me any hard time until one of my videos hit 1 million views. And when that video, and it was the LSD 101 video, and when that video hit 1 million views, they gave me my first strike at 1 million views, and I appealed it, and they put it back up, and I was like, all right, I'm good. And then like a week or two later, they hit it again, and I'm like, all right, this is stupid. So like, I'm like, and then they started demonetizing my videos instead of striking me, because my videos were getting a couple million views a month, in total. And then they started demonetizing, but they really weren't demonetizing, because what they were doing was they were still, because my videos were getting a lot of views, they were still running ads on my videos, just not paying me. So they're allowed to still advertise on your videos, but demonetize you. So, hey, we can make money off your views, but you can't make no money. So that's what they started doing. And within a 1 to 2 year period, I forget the exact numbers, but they had made close to $200,000 in ad revenue. And out of that, I made a couple dollars because they demonetized me early on. And then one night, I was sleeping, and all of a sudden, and it was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone just started going bling, 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 going crazy. I'm getting texts, I'm getting messages on Instagram, and people are like, where's your channel? Where's your channel? Can't find your channel. And then Instagram hit me with 3 strikes back to back within like a 1 minute period. So as soon as they hit you with 3 strikes, that's it. You can't even appeal it. It's the 3 strike rule. So like, if you get 1 strike, you could appeal it. If that strike is upheld, it's 90 days that strike is on your account. But if you get 2 more strikes within that 90 days, see you later. Like, and you can't even get your content back if you don't have it backed up. They won't even give you a link to like download all your videos or anything like that. So they hit me with that. First channel was gone. I forget what was at, 50,000, 60,000 subscribers. I don't know. Something. So now I was like, I'm done with YouTube. I'm not going to focus on YouTube. Luckily, by the time my YouTube had gotten taken down, I had started a Patreon channel, which was fairly new at the time. And only because my supporters were like, Willie, like, just start a Patreon, bro. Like, we'll support you. Like, fuck them. Like, we know you're doing this full time for us. Like, you know, like, we'll give you $1 a month or $2 a month just to keep the content coming and not be censored. Like, we got your back, bro. Like, and I was like, man, that means so much to me. And it took me a long time to create a Patreon because I'm like, I don't want to take money from my supporters. I'd rather take money from YouTube. They got the money. Like, my supporters, some of them are on fixed income. Some of them don't have jobs. Like, I don't want to take money from you just to be able to watch my content. Like, and for years, I put the content out for free. Everything I had, I was just putting it out because I was making a little bit of money on YouTube. It was getting me by, like, you know, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm good with this. I don't want to be a multimillionaire. I'm not trying to become rich doing this. Like, I just want to put out content and do what I love and be able to put food in my mouth and keep a roof over my head. Like, that's it. Like, I don't even need a car. I'll take the bus. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not asking for extras. And so when YouTube shut my channel down, luckily I had started that Patreon, and I really seen the support come through of my people, and they, you know, people started joining up, and I was realizing really fast, like, hey, Patreon's cool. Like, they're letting me put up all my videos. They're giving me all the tools I need. The analytics are amazing. Like, you know, like, this is just great. Like, so I really dumped a lot into Patreon. And a year or 2 went by before I started another YouTube channel. I was never going to come back to YouTube. But then people around me were like, Willie, you really should start a YouTube because, like, you know, you could put some censored stuff out there. You could put the lighter stuff out there, and, you know, not cross that line, and also use it as a tool to give people the option, if they want to go to your Patreon and get more, they could. So I was like, you know, that makes sense. Like, I could make some YouTube videos and then, like, you know, do a YouTube version and a Patreon version that is uncensored, or stuff that can't even go on YouTube. I could just kind of let people know, like, hey, it's out. Go check it out on Patreon. And that was the best decision I ever made, because Patreon is a home for creators like myself. And I think you're on Patreon now, right? And, like, they
had to.
Really love.
They demonetized me just like they did you.
They really love and welcome us. You know, I know I've met the CEO of Patreon, and I've spoke with him, and I sit in on meetings every single month with them. I'm an ambassador for Patreon. I was part of the reason why they changed their guidelines when it comes to psychedelic content creators. I did that. Like, I did that for us, so that we have a home and we don't have to worry about waking up one day and all of our stuff being gone, and we're no longer making income to be able to support what we love doing. And that's Patreon's the best, hands down.
Well, it's not the first time I've heard you say that. I think you probably told me easily a year and a half ago, like, brother, what are you doing all this on YouTube for? And you were right. I did all the same things. I was going, why YouTube's got all the money? Why am I trying to bug people that watch the show for money? So I'm not going to do that. But then one by one, they just started demonetizing, everything I put out. And then they started working their way back. And I'm like, oh my God, there's no money here now. I think now, I mean, I got like 140 videos. I think I make about $120, $160 a month, somewhere.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Look, man, like my videos get millions and millions of views like together, and I make zero on YouTube. And it's just not feasible. I got people that work for me now. We run a big operation. Right. Like, it's these videos are very expensive. These aren't low quality videos. These ain't just somebody with their cell phone recording something. This is like real, like a lot of time and energy goes into these videos. There's editors, there's managers, there's people that help bring this all together. And you need to generate. A lot of people get upset when you make money, and it's like, I need to be able to continue. I can't just fund this out of my own pocket. Like, I'm willing to give you guys the knowledge I have, and I'm willing to put myself out there for you guys, and have the fucking feds kick my door in.
Right.
I'm cool with that. I'll be a martyr. I'm all right. But I feel like just everybody chipping in just makes it that much easier. Like, we can continue pushing out this knowledge. And some people get really upset, like, why you got to try to put a paywall? And it's like, man, like you're not thinking. You're not thinking. You're just thinking right here. You're not thinking about the big picture. And that drives me crazy.
Oh man, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I hear you 100%. Anyway, but you did it, and you found a spot. And Patreon, especially these days. I mean, I had you on over a year ago talking about, what's up with social media. A year later, the meta of it all is not going well. Every day I feel like I'm saying goodbye to another online friend. And then where do they go? I got people I used to talk to almost every day that I rarely talk to now. I got to be like, bro, let me give you my cell phone so we can actually still talk. And then just have phone calls now, because some people just vanish. And they don't want to give you their phone number, or they don't got a Telegram or whatever. And so these people just go away. So Patreon, it's a real place if you're willing to do the work. And you did it. You got a great Patreon. You got a great Discord. How about we get into I think, even though this is primarily a mushroom cultivation channel, I don't think there's anybody that's going to mind hearing this story. I don't know if everybody listening knows this or not, but there's some more recent content on Willy's Patreon that's pretty groundbreaking, pretty amazing. And I have read a couple articles about how it came to be. But man, what better way to hear about the story than from you firsthand? Walk us through how this whole story unfolded, and you were able to go to Pakistan and create content around the actual process of synthesizing LSD.
Yeah. All right. So this is a good one. I actually got two stories. One with the Mexican cartel that happened about a year ago, and then this whole situation. So if you want to hear the other one, I'll tell you. Right? It'll be an exclusive. I never told this story publicly. All right. So since I started with my first channel, eventually people started saying, because they seen I would release video on mescaline, I would release video on DMT, not just mushrooms. A lot of my stuff is heavily directed towards mushrooms, but everything. I'm a chemist and I'm a microbiologist. So like I love both sides of it. I think all entheogens are amazing. So like people started asking for an LSD video. And I said, look, I want to do it, right? And I don't want to incriminate myself, but I know where it's being done, okay? Like, so like this happens, like, and I could record it. But the problem is me being in the video, doing it here in the States, there's two things that I was worried about, one more than the other. The first is the government seeing it and they're like, aha, we got you. This is proof that you're on US soil and you are synthesizing a Schedule 1 substance.
Yeah.
And game over. There's no way to fight that. You incriminated yourself, you put yourself on video doing it, and they know that it's in your lab, which is in the United States. Right. So I'm like, all right. But the bigger thing to me, and it's not so much the legal side of it, it was the safety side of it. I'm like, look, I released some of the easiest, like I'll take a process and I will break it down to the point to where anybody could understand it. As long as you follow me step by step and just listen to what I'm saying and do exactly as I'm doing, you will succeed. That's it. Like, it's as simple as that. And I try to be as detailed as possible. Some people love that. Some people hate that. They're like, well, you talk too much, whatever. I do it for the people that need that little bit extra. Yeah. Not everybody's as advanced as the person that's saying that. So they need that. And I'm like, even though my videos are that detailed and I go step by step, very slowly, I put everything in layman's terms, people still make mistakes. And even when people make mistakes with mushroom cultivation and stuff like that, it's not life or death. Right. You make a mistake with chemistry, it's life or death. Whether that's you're going to blow your house up, you're going to inhale some gases that are going to kill you, you're going to burn yourself very badly, or the final product that you end up handing out to people and giving to people is no good, and they're going to end up getting what's called ergot poisoning. Yeah. So, like, that bothered me more. I don't want anybody to ever be hurt. I don't want anybody to ever be killed or anything like that doing a process. And that was the big dilemmas when coming to this video. So I did, and it's no longer around, so you can't find it for anybody that's out there from the government watching. I did film the video years ago, over 7 years ago, statute of limitation, over 7 years ago, I filmed the video and I just had it on my hard drive. And I have a lawyer that reviewed it and he said, no fucking way, you're crazy. You can't put this out. And I said, one day I'm going to figure out how to put this video out. But I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So fast forward many years, over 7 years, fast forward, and things have came a long way since then. And, us as a company, me as a creator, financially, we have a little bit bigger budget to work with. We're not no Mr. Beast or anything like that, but like we got money that we could, put towards things. I said, I really want to do this. Like, so I went and hired two of the best attorneys in the country, hands down. One of those attorneys is Jeffrey Nathan, out of Boston, Massachusetts, federal attorney. Fucking killer. This guy's like stone cold killer. And I told them, I said, look, how do we do this? But do it legally to where I'm not going to get I'm not going to get arrested. I want to release this and I want to be able to release it to the masses, but how do we do this? Both of them looked at me and said, look, I don't think it's possible, but let us look it over, give us some time, let us look at the laws, and we'll get back to you with some options. So a couple weeks went by, they came back to me. They said, look, got three options for you. One, you work for a university or a lab, and you get the permission from the US government to do the synthesis for whatever study you want to do, and you could film the process. said, I'm not going to do that. One, I'm not going to get hired by any university. One, because of who I am, and two, I don't have my doctorate. Most of these places want you to have a doctorate to be a university professor. It's very rare in science or in medicine or anything like that that you'll see a professor at a university that doesn't have their doctorate.
Yeah.
The second thing that they told me is, okay, cool. Well, then and I said, also the government's never going to give me a license. Like, even if I went through all the hoops that I had to jump through, and I started working for a university in their chemistry department, and I focused solely on that, the chances of the government giving me a license to do it, slim to none. The best universities, the best scientists in the world get denied all the time. About 98% of all applications for a license to work with a psychedelic substance get denied.
Yeah.
So they're not going to give it to me. Fuck no, they're not going to give it to me. They know who I am. I don't wear a mask because they don't know who I am. They know who I am. I wear a mask for a completely different reason. Like, they're not giving it to me. Second thing, go work for a university out of the country, in another country, like a third world country, that will be easier to get in because they'd love to have a US educated person over there teaching. And they're also a lot, like, their government's more lenient when it comes to issuing the license.
Right.
So I'm not going to do that because I speak 2.5 languages already, right? I'm not going to go learn another language to go work for a university in another country and just leave my team. What I got people that work for me. I got just leave everybody behind so I can go work for a university just to accomplish one video.
Right.
It makes no sense. Third option, they said, well, partner with a chemist at a university that has the license or could already get the license. I said, shit, that's actually a really good idea. They said, you doing that circumvents all the legal bullshit. You're not going to be on US soil. It's going to be a different chemist doing the synthesis. They'll get the permission from their government, and you guys film. I said, that is great, but where the hell am I going to find this, right? So some time goes by, but that's my plan of attack right there. I'm like, all right, that's my plan of attack. So I start going through like my Rolodex per se, and I'm like, who can I work with? And all of a sudden I get contacted by a professor at the University of Okara in Punjab, Pakistan. And he emails me, well, not me, he emails one of the people that works for me trying to get in touch with me. And he says, we would really love to have Willy come out and do a lecture at the university on entheogens and, you know, the science surrounding them, because over here in our country, it's not very accepted. And like, we would like to like open the students' eyes to some of the practices that are taking place around the world in more open countries like the United States. And I said, wow, that's really cool. Like, be able to go to Pakistan and teach some people some stuff and, you know, like open some of these students' eyes. And then I'm like, wait. So I reached out to him and I said, look, if I did that, would you guys be interested in letting me film at the university at LSD synthesis? And he said, I think we can make that happen. Wow. Let's apply for the license. And you come do the talk with the students and we'll see if we can make it happen. So some time went by and I get the call. He's like, Willy, we got the license from the Pakistani government. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So then all the planning starts taking place. All right, cool. Like, how are we going to do this? Who's coming? How long do we need to be there for? So we end up, team packs up. We head over to Pakistan and we end up landing. And, you know, everything was great. There were great people at the university. Everything went off without no issues. And now we're waiting on precursors to come in to Pakistan because a lot of these companies either one didn't want to sell us the precursors, even though we had a license from the Pakistani government and we was the university requesting it, or the other thing was customs kept holding up our packages. So I was in Pakistan with camera crew, with team, And I'm like, look, I have to leave. And I can't just stay here waiting on these precursors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my team behind. I'm going to leave a camera crew behind. When all the stuff gets here, they'll start filming, and I'll be on Zoom, and we'll do it. I'll have a team in the US filming me, and we'll do it the way that the video ended up coming out. So, but a couple weeks went by. So during that couple weeks, you got to remember, I still got a camera crew there. I still got a team there. They have to eat. They have to be paid. They have to pay for their hotel. They got to pay for transportation, all this stuff. So I'm sending money to Pakistan via Western Union, just not even thinking, just to cover costs and to make sure they're comfortable. They're doing me a big service by staying there. Pakistan's a beautiful place, right? And the people are amazing, but like the food just wasn't my thing. And like I need to eat. So I end up getting a call from my attorney a couple days later, who had been contacted by the FBI and pretty much said, like, why is this person sending money to Pakistan? Why did he go to Pakistan? And I never really thought about it. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's where they got bin Laden, like in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Like it never clicked in my head. And my lawyer's like, look, dude, like they pretty much said it was like, hey, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? They pretty much thought I was funding terrorism. And my lawyer had to tell him, like, no, he's working with the university. He has a team of people over there, camera people and stuff like that are making sure everything gets filmed right. And that's their payroll. That's their per diem, their money to eat and hotel and stuff. Like, that's why he's sending money over there. But yeah, the other way was to go to a lab, an underground lab, kind of like Hamilton did, and film the process and just kind of be in the background, like kind of talking about it, but not put my hands on anything so I couldn't be blamed for anything. But like going through the process. I did reach out to, now let me tell you guys, there's only about 5 to 6 labs in the entire world that produce LSD. These are underground labs that supply the entire world with LSD. These labs have been operational for many years, and most of them are funded by organized crime.
Sure.
It just is what it is. Yeah. Not that the chemist is a bad person, not that, no, their people are people that are connected people to organized crime. And whether it's in Europe or it's in Canada or it's in Mexico or it's wherever, it's connected. Yeah. And so I reached out to one of the chemists that I know that works for one of these organizations. And I reached out and I said, look, would you be interested in letting me come film? And he calls me every now and then to ask me questions about something or, whatever. So we have a decent relationship. And I said, look, would you let me come film if I paid you guys, like, to let me come film the process? And he's like, well, why do you want to film the process? And I said, well, because I want to release a video on the process. And he said, I don't know about that. And I was like, well, he's like, let me talk to the people I work for and see, like, if this is something that's even possible. So he ends up getting back to me. He's like, dude, like, they said absolutely no way. But not only that, if you did release a video like that publicly, like, don't come out this way. And I'm like, are you saying that to me or they're saying that to me? And he's like, no, like, they're saying that. Like, dude, I don't want no part in this. Like, I'm saying, okay, cool. Tell them to go fuck themselves. Like, and I just left it at that. And I said, I'm releasing the video. So I ended up doing the video, and as the promotion of the video was hitting social media, saying this video is coming out on this date, started getting messages from these people and death threats. And the reason why is because they make millions and millions and millions of dollars a year off of this, and they're worried that this is going to hurt their pockets if the people have the knowledge to do it themselves. And right, if none of us knew how to fish and we have to buy fish from the market every single day to eat, the fisherman is happy. But once we learn how to fish and we're catching those fish for ourselves and we're like, cool, like I got too many fish here, you have some of my fish, and we're just giving it to family. And all of a sudden, the fish market isn't so viable anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because the people have the knowledge. And that's exactly what happened here. And it pissed a lot of people off. But I've been pissing people off my entire fucking career. I don't care. Like, that's the best part about this. Like, you know, I love pissing people off because when I piss people off, that means I'm doing something right. And I love the fact that all these people in the community now have access to this video. They have it. It's there. It's the first time it's ever been done in the history of LSD. 86 years LSD has been around. 86 years. Not one video has ever come out step by step telling you how to synthesize LSD until I released it in 2024. That's it. It will go down in history as the first video. There might be 10 other videos that come out. I doubt it. But like, because it was a lot, it was very expensive. It cost us about $100,000 to get that video done. But without Patreon, without the supporters, that would never be possible. I can't just take $100,000 out of my bank account and pay for one video. Like, I can't do that. So it's everybody coming together and saying, well, here's $1, here's $2, supporting it and saying, okay, we're going to put away money every single month so that we could fund this video. That's what all this is about. When I drop a mystery box or Patreon or anything like that, all that money goes back into what we're doing. It's not free to do this. It costs money to do this, you know, like, and people don't understand. Some people don't understand. A small group of people don't understand that.
They don't. Yeah. They have no clue. They're not thinking all that stuff all the way through. And all I want to say is this. First off, yeah, man, those, you know, I didn't know it was 5, but I knew there couldn't have been too many people who are actually
It's
synthesizing.
5 to 6.
But like I knew it was a small number of people. And if you knock on one of their doors and say, hey, I want to show the world how to do this. Yeah, they're not going to say yes to you. So you played it about the only way you could play it, man. That worked out fantastic. And
can I just preface it? Like, when I say 5 to 6, I'm talking about large scale operations. These are people that are producing tens of thousands of hits every single month or every couple months. I'm not talking about the one chemist, like your uncle's buddy that knows somebody up in the mountain that grows, you know, that synthesizes 1,000 hits and passes it out. I'm sure there's chemists out there doing that type of stuff. But I'm saying large scale, you know, the stuff we see going around on the markets comes from these 5 to 6 mega labs that are actually producing it.
Yeah. Yeah, like at quantity. Like a legit lab, a production level lab. Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, so of course they don't want you filming that. That's But so first off, if you guys are remotely interested, which how the hell would you not be? Like, forget if I'm never gonna synthesize LSD, but of course I want to watch that, right? Like, of course I got to sign up for the Patreon and go check it out. And whether I just want to see what's involved in creating a truly phenomenal substance that's done a lot of amazing things for a lot of people. I mean, we could do about 18 podcasts just on the ways LSD has utterly shaped really important figures' lives that then went on to shape our reality, our lives, the way we understand things, the way we process information. So yeah, even if just for the novelty of seeing it, that is so cool that you did that. But if you have an interest in chemistry, of course you got to watch it. If you've ever actually experienced it and you want to watch the video, it's only going to deepen your appreciation for what it is, man. I think it's so cool that you did it, that you had to go halfway around the world. Doesn't surprise me in the least. But that is an interesting story, that you got the death threats. Kind of.
You want to hear the cartel one?
Oh, that's the one I want to hear. Yes, please. Let's go.
I never said this publicly. So, before this whole situation happened with Pakistan and all that, I do. So if you're part of my Patreon and you're on the VIT tier, which is $20 a month, you can set up one-on-one phone calls with me. So every single night, I do a bunch of phone calls for half an hour privately with people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people that would regularly schedule a call, I got to know him good, Mexican kid from down south. And, cool kid, got to know him really, really well. And then one day he says, look, man, he says, my uncle would like to talk to you. Is it okay on the next meeting if I bring my uncle on? And I say, yeah, of course. I don't care. And so next meeting rolls around, a couple weeks later or whatever, and his uncle's there. And you could tell his uncle's into something. Now, his uncle is a straight Mexican dude, lives in Mexico. Got the cowboy hat on, button-up shirt, and he's just sitting back in his chair, and his nephew's right beside him. And, we're talking, and the uncle says, well, look, the reason I wanted to get you here today and talk to you is I want to make an offer to you. And I was like, okay, like right there, like in my head, I'm going, nah, I hate this right now. Like, but I'm not going to be rude. So I listened to him and he says, look, would you be interested in coming down to Mexico and teaching our people how to synthesize LSD and help them, direct them on how to set up the lab and then train them on how to use the equipment, 2 weeks max. Like, we just need you for 2 weeks max. We'll give you, it was a larger 6 figures. We'll give you 6 figures. We'll fly you down here private if you want, car, like security, and then you get to go home. And if we need anything from you, and you have to come back, we'll pay you $50,000 a day. And I said, look, it's very generous of you. Let me think about this, and, I'll get back to you and, let you know. And he was like, all right, cool, thank you. And he left the call. He said, just let my nephew know. As soon as the uncle got off, I told the kid, I was like, look, how the fuck can you do something like that to me? Like, you just put me in the worst position, ever. You not only had me sitting here talk. He didn't say he worked for. He worked for a cartel. I don't. You know what I'm saying? So how could you put me in that situation? Number one, because now I have to tell your uncle no, right? But also, I already have a big target on my back legally. So you now, if I went to go do this for them, that's it. It's a wrap. I'd be public enemy number one. No. And I told him, nobody wants, the streets to be flooded with pure, cheap LSD more than me. I wish it was everywhere and everybody had access to it because it's great medicine. Everybody should have access to it. But I'm at the end of the day, you put me in a bad position and that could destroy me. And I said, you're going to have to go tell your uncle, no, thank you, but no, thank you, in a very nice way. And, as far as our friendship goes, I'm really upset that you would put me in a situation like that. And that was it, man. And that was probably one of the situations I was pretty nervous about because I revealed a lot. When I talk to the Trip Team family on these one-on-ones or in my Discord, I'm very open with them and I give them everything. I tell them families' names and I tell them where I live. And I'm very open with people because I'm the same as them. And I never look at myself above them.
Right.
So I gave this kid a lot of information and I'm like, fuck, now I have to tell this guy, no. And this kid knows information about me. It was man, it wasn't a good situation, but I never said that story publicly. And that's the first time. And that was probably one of the times I was only really worried.
Man, yeah, can my uncle come hang out? Yeah, the Mexican uncle with the cowboy hat and the boots, and yep, there you go. Put you in the spot.
Yeah.
Who knows? You don't know what pressures he was under, or if uncle was watching him. Tio was watching.
No, he's still part of the TTF. We reconciled. He's still part of the TTF. He's a good person. I just talked to him today. He thought he was doing me a favor
Right.
Like, it was a significant amount of money, and like he thought like, hey, I'm pushing all this towards you, and you're gonna get to do what you love, and at the end, like, there's gonna be plentiful, clean LSD for everybody. And it was just like, nah, I'm good. Thank you. I know what comes along with that. Like that
Yeah.
money is not good money. Not all money is good money.
Yeah, man. And now he, because he's in the Trip Team family, he just showed his uncle the videos, and now they can hire some other dude,
Yeah,
and
do your thing.
you don't got to worry about it. And hopefully we
Yeah,
can get some cheap LSD soon. That would be
yeah,
great. Bro, well, that is, I'm
exactly.
going to just tell you right now, when I saw you do that, I didn't know the backstory. I didn't know some of the like biography around some of that. But I was just like, holy shit, pulling that off. I could just quickly do the math on that being a big fucking deal. So good for you. I hope everybody goes, we got, what do we got? 263 people watching right now. Hope you guys all go out and watch that video. It's illuminating. It is interesting. I don't think that you're the first, the death threat people. I don't think they got too much to worry about. It definitely did make me immediately go, well, shit, I'm gonna go grow that, or I'm gonna go synthesize that next week. But it's just what it says to me is the interest, much in the vein of like Tikal and Pikal, right? Like you're trying to share the information. You're trying to um, democratize this information rather than gatekeep it. And that's super cool. And it's such a cool story that you came from the pharmaceutical world, and now you're, freely sharing this information. I couldn't be more impressed. It's really great that we got you in this community. Always doing something cool. Always doing something
Yeah,
like
absolutely. I see a lot of
next
people.
level.
I see a lot of people like saying like, LSD's cheap. LSD's cheap. Look, let me tell you something. So we test. That's also another thing. We test psychedelics. So you could send in most LSD that's out there isn't LSD.
Yeah.
So when you're buying LSD, unless you are closely connected to the person that's synthesizing it, if you're paying $1 a hit, I hope you had a good end bomb experience, because like, most, and I'm just being honest with you guys, most of the stuff we get sent in is not LSD. Actually, it's probably about a 50-50. There's way more synthetics out there than there is actual LSD, because the synthetics could be made in abundance. 24/7, and there's giant labs in China that are constantly producing them, laying it on blotter, and shipping it around the world. And people are buying that stuff for less than 25 cents a hit. And then once they get it, they start pushing it. Yes, if you go to a person that's synthesizing LSD, they could give you a couple hits for $1 or whatever, and they're still making money because it's not expensive to produce LSD. Once you have the equipment, the precursors aren't terribly expensive, and they go a long way. Like I said in my video, 1 gram of the precursor will yield you well over 2,400 hits of quality LSD, right? And on all the precursors, if you already have them, each run, you just need to buy that initial precursor every single time. And 1 gram of that initial precursor only costs $100. So for $100, if you already have everything you need, you could produce 2,400 hits of really high quality LSD. So even if I sold all 24 of those hits, the 100 of those hits for $1, I'm still making $2,300 at the end of the day, right? I invested my time. I already have the equipment. I already have the stuff. But most of the stuff you see out there, and this is just the dead honest truth, if you want to get real L, the price out there, if you're a nobody that doesn't really have any connections, I've seen the price go anywhere from $5 all the way up to $20 a hit. If you go to a music festival or something like that, and you're walking around the parking lot, you'll see these numbers. And that's for a nobody. I get really top shelf L from people that I trust for about $2 a hit. And, that's about average. So it's all about who you know. We're inside this community. We're within a network of people that could get it and give it and things like that. So we have good access. But the normal person out there that wants
Right.
it, that isn't part of this community, they don't have access to it, and they're going to pay whatever is out there. You know what I'm saying? They're, whatever.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's not even real L. It's N-bomb, which is more of a mescaline synthetic than an LSD, or it's LSA, or it's something. You know, when you try real LSD straight from a synthesis for the first time, it's mind blowing because it's so clean, it's so amazing and euphoric and visual that there is nothing to compare it to.
Getting the real stuff, right? That's why testing is important. That's why, you know, HPLC matters. That's why some of these silo Q tests, reagent tests that you can get from different places, just to see if what you got is what you got. I can't tell you how many people I've resuscitated because they thought they were doing one thing and they were doing something else. A lot of people. And I'm just in, like, you know, I'm in just one little city in the country. I'm not even in the war zone of this stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit out there. It's just like contractors, right? If somebody's offering you like insanely cheap drugs, they're offering you cheap drugs.
That's it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, I honestly, no. And like I said, if you know people, you're connected to the right people, sure. But I'm telling you, there is not that many chemists out there. So usually when you buy L from somebody, it's been passed through 10 hands.
Yeah.
You could say this and that, and it's this, it's fluff. Bro, I'm telling you, like, their pockets are fluff because they're making a killing off of those synthetics.
Trying to turn $1 out of 15 cents, man. That's what they're doing. All right, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's next. What do you got in store for us in, say, like the next year or two? Anything you want to tease or hint at?
Absolutely. So we're going back to Pakistan. There'll be the first ever step-by-step MDMA synthesis coming out. We already got the government approval. So that should be out in the next month or two. So,
Amazing.
you know, people will be able to synthesize their own clean MDMA, which is one of the biggest problems right now. Let's get off the topic of LSD. We tested a bunch of samples of MDMA, and 7 out of the 10 samples had methamphetamine in it, and almost all of them, except for 2, had fentanyl in them. So, you know, I think that's a bigger issue than anything else because, you know, we know what's going on with fentanyl and stuff like that, and it's an ugly thing. So I think getting that information out there is important. A lot of these reagent kits don't work, so
they don't get used right either. Yeah,
but also too, the thing is, a lot of these reagent kits, what people don't realize is they're just testing. When you put a substance in there, psychedelic, let's say, it's just testing for the indole structure and the molecular makeup. It's not testing to see if it's LSD. It's not testing to see if it's DMT. It's testing for an indole, which is like the stop shape sign, stop sign looking thing in the chemical makeup. Now, that's why you could take an LSD reagent kit and drop it on some LSD and it will turn purple, but then take some DMT and do the same. It will turn purple on the DMT, and take some, and it will turn purple on that. Like, it's, as long as it contains an indole, it will test positive. So the only real way to know what is in your substance is you could either go the cheap way. If you're just worried about fentanyl and you don't care about anything else, you could use fentanyl test strips to test for the presence of fentanyl. But the best way to do it is to go and actually send it in for HPLC testing, because then we could tell you to the exact amount how much of what is inside your sample.
Right.
And we offer that.
Yeah, I have talked to a few HPLC guys, and they all say roughly the same thing, which is every time somebody gives me a sample and they say, we think there's this percentage of such and such in there, the amount of times that there is at least as much as they say is going to be in there is basically non-existent. So not only do you got an issue of, is it in there? You got an issue of, you can pretend to act like you know how much is in there, but if you're not HPLC testing it, you don't actually know. That's why that matters. Whether you're trying to make sure what you have is what you think it is, and the person you're getting it from knows what they're talking about, or whether you're trying to create something for your family and friends that you want to be reliable, it's got to be a piece of that puzzle, man. It's got to be there. Can't guess.
Absolutely.
You just cannot guess. Well, that's pretty exciting, man. I'm definitely a fan of MDMA. I think science is slowly becoming a fan of MDMA. It's accelerating a lot of couples therapy from what I've been reading about, and that, in my experience, that does not surprise me. Yeah, man, just educating people, getting people to think about this a little bit more. All that stuff is important. And sharing the information. It's sending the right message out into the community. It's sending the right attitude into our community of like, let's not just be dumb about this anymore. Here it is. You can actually watch it, learn about it, understand it a little bit deeper. If every week you're learning just a little bit more about the things you're interested in, you're building a bigger and better ability to make better decisions about your life and your experiences, and all that stuff. Super important.
Yeah, man. It's there's like over 20 that I know different processes of LSD. That's another thing. To synthesize LSD, there's multiple different syntheses, and depending on which synthesis you do, it's also going to produce a different quality and, a different type of L, depending on what you start with and stuff like that. Same thing with MDMA. For a long time, people use saffron. That's like the main precursor. But now people use PMK, which is a synthetic. And, there's room to debate on which one of those is better. From an environmental standpoint, PMK is better. But from like a real OG, I want that pure MDMA, then saffron is going to be it. So like, depending on, you're going to see a million different processes. The reason why I picked this LSD process that I released is because, in my opinion, it's the simplest and most comprehensible synthesis for somebody that doesn't already know like basic chemistry. Like anybody could do. A grandmother, an 80-year-old grandmother could watch my video and produce LSD. It's a 2-step synthesis. Most other complex synthesis are 5 steps, 6 steps, 7 steps. Some synthesis could take 10, 11 days to complete. So like, this, in my opinion, is the simplest and produces the highest quality LSD.
Very cool. All right, I got a couple interesting questions for you. Hopefully just a little more lighthearted. And then we'll end on the thing that I've been talking a lot about lately, which is the future of the community. But first, let me just ask you this. Who's one myco celebrity, myco person in this community who, if tomorrow night you could go have dinner with any of them, who would it be and why?
Ooh, man, there's so many people I admire.
That's okay, man. Just off the top of your head, so you don't worry about hurting anybody's feelings. Just who,
dead or alive?
Oh, dead or alive? Yes, either one.
Terrence McKenna.
Love it. That'd probably be mine. That'd probably be my choice. It's a good one. Although I feel like I don't even want to talk to him. I just want to listen to him. I just want to hear him talk.
Yeah, his experiences.
Oh my God, yes.
Are amazing.
Yes, I'm with you. All right, so how about mushrooms, right? Like, so these days, I'll tell you how things are looking for me. You got a lot of people crossing, you got a lot of people breeding, you got a lot of people either like poo-pooing landrace cubes, But then now you got a lot of people growing exotics. I'm jumping on the exotics bandwagon. I have had some experiences with pans that definitely were encouraging. Got me wanting to try some other stuff. Um, yeah, talk to me a little bit about that idea.
Yeah. So that's me, right? So exotics are about 85 to 90% of my grow now, and have been for at least 5 years. Um, I've always grown exotics, but like that's really where my love lies today, is with the exotics, the things that give me more of a challenge to cultivate and that more unknown. I love that. So like Neozalapensis and like the Gillartensis and the Aztec corums and it's the Bamlarensis. Like, it's just all these amazing exotics like that people don't cultivate indoors because they're too challenging or they're just unknown. They just don't know about it.
Right.
So one of my big things was to cultivate Psilocybe gillartensis indoors, because to my knowledge, it had never been done. And the reason why it had never been done is because it doesn't respond to cocoa or manure. The way it grows in the wild is it grows out of this clay-like substance. And so whenever I go foraging for mushrooms, I always take a soil sample from where I found the mushroom, because I want to bring that soil back and I want to analyze it and figure out what is in the soil that the mushroom's actually feeding on. Because if I know what the mushroom is feeding on and I could replicate the environmental conditions, then I could grow this mushroom indoors. So when I've got the Gillartensis, I took the soil sample and I came back and I analyzed the soil, and I realized that the clay was made up of a lot of decaying matter from the trees and stuff like that. But the main source of nutrient for the mushroom was actually shell, so calcium. They are a high calcium consuming mushroom. And the reason for this is where I found Gillartensis is in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico was formed because of volcanic activity. So at one point, everything got pushed up. So like the mountains get pushed up. And when that happens, it takes a lot of the seafloor with it that used to once be underwater. So you could go hiking up in the mountains, 2,000, 3,000 feet above sea level, and you'll find seashells in the ground. And those seashells have been there for eons. And what's happening is they're breaking down over time and they're putting calcium into the soil, and that's what these mushrooms are feeding off of. So what we ended up doing was we ended up taking the substrate and making it very calcium rich. So we put coco coir in there because that was one of the components of the substrate, the soil sample. But we did a lot with calcium, and not just any calcium. We actually ground up seashells, like what it was actually consuming. And to our surprise, it started fruiting actually relatively quickly. And they didn't grow massive. They don't grow massive outside. But just to see them grow indoors and know that it was just that was holding people back from cultivating them. And that's what I do. And that's how I approach everything. So like right now, I got a ton of pans going. I love the MIB red spores, RDU. Mine's obviously Aguadilla, Laos, La Fortuna, which are some of my Pinellius. So I grow a lot of pans, but I also grow a lot of really cool exotics. And like I said, we got some Gillartensis going. We got some Aztec corum. We're trying to get it to fruit the right way. It's hard because where we're fruiting it is we're so close to sea level, and they usually like a higher elevation. So we would have to like change the atmospheric pressure within the tent, which is kind of like a whole nother undertaking. But you could grow anything that grows outside. As long as you know what it eats and its environmental conditions, you could grow it. I've seen people, for a long time, people said, you can't grow Psilocybe sinensis. Can't do it. Can't grow indoors because You need that freezing point for them to fruit. And it's like, all right, there's ways around that. I've seen people build out whole sections, trailers, 18-wheeler trailers with reefer systems on them just to get the temperature down, and they fruit out like mad. The psilocybe azarescens. I've seen people do it. I've done it. So it's like anything is possible. Just you got to get out there. I always live by the saying, fuck around and find out. Like, just do it. Like, FAFO, let's do it. Like, and you're never going to know if you can or you can't until you start doing it. And you just tweak a little thing here, a little thing there. I love cubensis. I think the waters are super muddy with a bunch of relabeled and renamed genetics. Absolutely. And that's disheartening to me. That crushes me. I hate that.
Yeah.
So like I got over 185 genetics in my library. This is just active genetics. This has nothing to do with medicinal or gourmet, just actives. And I try to preserve everything the best that I can so that in 10 years, if something goes off market, it's gone because of relabeling and people lost it. I have a copy of that and I could reissue that to the community. And I think it's very important for all of us to label correctly and to save every genetic you come across, every single genetic you come across, save it, get your hands on it, save it, document it, and preserve it.
It is muddy out there right now. That is a good word to use to describe what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, just exotics, right? It's another species. It's got the same thing we all love in it, but who knows what else is in it until we grow it and have more ready access to it, especially when it comes to some of these mushrooms are red listed. So we don't want to go out and pick them. They're already have a endangered habitat. They're already being threatened. So yeah, somebody coming home with, a tiny little spore print could create, a plausible experience for somebody that otherwise couldn't. It's like, let's say ostriches were endangered, or I don't know, like bald eagle meat, right? What if bald eagle meat tastes really good, but we can't go out and shoot a bunch of bald eagles to eat it? So yeah, it's what we do as cultivators. It's important. We're creating the text around all this stuff. Like you just figured out, it was just calcium. It was right. It just by looking at the soil a little bit more carefully. When I see some of these mushrooms I never saw before, yeah, I'm trying to pay attention to every little detail I possibly can. Because like you said, if it's growing outside, why can't you grow it inside?
You absolutely can.
Just gotta get the equation just gotta work out. If you get all the right variables in the right spot at the right time, it can happen. So I love that, man. The FAFO, that is definitely the way. Exotics are super fun. And there's a little something, right? The pans, they're smooth, man. There's something special about them for sure. If you haven't given
I
them
always
a try.
say, people that ask me, I compare Pinellius experience closer to an LSD experience than anything else. It's extremely visual. Pans are just like next level, and I've been saying that for years. Even when I released my first pan video, a lot of people weren't growing pans, and I want to give a shout out too. One of the people that influenced me cultivating that really helped me out a lot when I first started cultivating was a cultivator by the name of Stone Sun. And
Stone Sun.
Some people might remember him if he was part of Shroomery, and many years ago, and still you could see his stuff on there if you just want to go check it out. Stone Sun, all one word. And this dude, to me, at that point in time in my cultivation career, was like the best. And like he was growing stuff like nobody's business. And man, like he always took the time to sit down and answer my questions that I had, and I really appreciate that. And I wish him the best. And I hope, he's still out there doing good. He was a good guy.
Man, it's just like your story in school, right? It just took somebody going, hey, let's try this path for him and see how that works out. And Stone Sun, gave you the time, right? Like a lot of these situations, it just always just takes one person to be a good person and do the right thing and take the time and like live by the golden rule for people's lives to completely change. This is why it's so important and why you set such a good example for the community. People are coming into this community every single day, and some of them are insanely desperate. They have tried everything. They are looking for healing and help, or they need something to do. I talk to a lot of people that are just bored out of their fucking minds. And they're like, these guys look like they're having fun. And oh yeah, this, let's give this a try. Why on earth do you need to be rude and cruel and mean to people that you don't even fucking know? It's like, please let that not be the only way you feel good about yourself in a given day. Please. Don't do that. Be nice.
Hey, brother, can I just grab my computer charger real quick?
Oh, yeah, go for it. Go for it. It's all good. So, guys, go check out the LSD video. I mean, you're never going to see it again. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Go check it out. And MDMA synthesis coming up. And now, dude, he's on a roll, so I don't know what he's going to be doing next. Maybe once he puts up the white picket fence at his place in Puerto Rico, he's going to have to get himself a little hut in Pakistan up in the mountains somewhere. And
not me.
No, you don't want that.
Nah, I would never move to Pakistan. It just wasn't my vibe. Great people, beautiful people, like, not my vibe. I will tell you that, we still have a lot going on. I got this new studio going up, huge investment, but we're gonna sit down and do talks and stuff like that. We're gonna have the psychedelic bodega talk, like, and just shoot the shit. We got a brand new lab, brand new grow space. It's amazing. This new studio that we have going up is crazy.
That's cool, man. Yeah, people especially on YouTube and Patreon and all that, people expect the content. Dude, I wasn't even 1 or 2 episodes in and people were just tearing me apart because of the audio. Just ruthless. I'm like, oh yeah, people just they do not have to want for anything these days when it comes to content. You gotta be on your game for sure. So that's exciting, man. I can't wait to see what you do with that. All right, you're recharged.
Yeah, computer's charged. It's plugged in.
Okay, good. All right, so I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah. I want to talk about kind of your assessment. I've been talking to a lot of people privately about this lately, like your assessment of, you sort of hinted at it with the muddy comment about, the cube games getting a little muddy. Just big picture, psychedelics, where are they going, why they matter, do they matter, and what can each of us do, like individually, to be a positive part of growing this community and making a positive change?
I think obviously psychedelics have a bright future. There's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo surrounding it and stuff, but I think as far as a whole, as like a society, I think like general society is starting to realize, hey, there's something here. Like, and we're okay, right? Like if a pharmaceutical company wants to push out this new painkiller, we're cool with it. We don't even bat an eye. Like, cool. Like, yeah, release it. It's going to help people with their pain.
Yep.
But if you do the same thing and you say, well, we want to release this new cannabis-based painkiller, has no opiate in it, people are like, whoa, hold up. Like, and why is that? That's because this brainwash program that has happened over many decades. I released that video on it, talking about it. It's like they wanted to destroy the image, and they set out to do this whole propaganda campaign on psychedelics. They created the DARE program to scare kids away from this stuff, and it's just sad. I was actually contacted before I moved to Puerto Rico. I was contacted by an assistant of a politician in Colorado. And this politician, she's a woman. Some of you guys might know who she is, or you can go look. But she reached out, her people reached out and said, we would love to have you come out here and like kind of like talk to us about psychedelics and like what you think the legal surroundings should be when it comes to legalization. So I flew out there, sat down with them for a couple hours, and I kind of told them how I feel about how cannabis went. I think cannabis legalization was the biggest flop in the world. You had a bunch of people creating laws for something that they knew nothing about. They should have taken people in. There's so many cannabis cultivators that have been cultivating for decades and decades and decades and putting their whole life, their heart, their soul into it. And they didn't care about how any of this affected them. You see a lot of these legacy cultivator growers are out of business now or barely hanging on by a thread, even though they've been growing in Humboldt County, California for the last 60 years. And they're all being destroyed by these mega organizations that these big corporations that have the money to just wipe them out. You know, as this cultivator in Humboldt County might be making $1 million a season, but compared to billions that these companies have and the political influence that these companies have, that means nothing. So at the end of the day, I told them, I said, look, this in a perfect world, this is how I would like to see mushrooms go on sale to the public. Is one, obviously we follow the same testing guidelines, make sure everything's tested, make sure everybody knows what they're getting, but also make sure the people that are working behind the counter are well informed and educated on the products that they sell so they could inform the customer. And also dispensaries, retail locations should not be able to have their own grow operation.
Right.
That's a big place where we went wrong in cannabis. When cannabis dispensaries started opening up, it was about who had the best bud in the area. You would go in with your harvest, you would bring a pound in, let them inspect it, let them check it out, and they would say, I'll give you $1,000 a pound, let's just say. How many pounds do you have? I have 100 pounds. All right, cool. We're going to cut you a check for 100 grand. Come bring us the other 99 pounds. So I said in a perfect world, what would happen is there would be a retail license and there would be a cultivator license. And you could have one or you could have the other. You can't have both. So it forces the dispensaries to work with the cultivators.
Right.
So that way everybody could eat. So if I invest my entire life savings into this mushroom grow operation, preparing for this market, I'm going to be all right because the dispensary has to work with me. As long as I grow better mushrooms than the guy next door, and I'm giving them a better price, and I'm giving them variety. It all comes to a free market type of thing. I'll be okay. And that's how it should be. Everybody should be able to eat. And I also told them the cultivator license should be very, very cheap compared to the retail license. The people that are opening up dispensaries have money for the most part. And they could afford to pay $100,000 for a license. But as a cultivator, you might be only able to afford $500 to $1,000, and they have to make that possible for the people that are doing this. And that's just what it is. Like I told them, that would be a perfect world, and that's what should have happened with cannabis, and that's how it was in the beginning with cannabis until the dispensary started saying, well, why are we buying it off of them? Let's just hire our own people, buy a new place, we can start growing it and selling our own product. And I don't want to see that happen with the mushroom space. I think that takes it away from all the people that have been putting in the hard work all these decades to bring it to where it is. So,
But capitalistic society that we live in, they don't care. Yeah, they don't care about those people. I mean, man, I remember reading, I'm going way back, but I had to read the Federalist Papers. And I remember one of the Federalist Papers was one of the ones Thomas Jefferson wrote. I think it was 114 or 112. I could be way off, but I think it was one of those two if you guys want to go check it out. But he was writing these papers around the time of the Constitutional Convention out where you used to live at. And he was like, So we're setting up this government, and I think it's going to be pretty great. But I can foresee one way that we could fuck it all up. Or, I'm sorry, I think he said two ways. The one way he said is our whole system is relying on an educated voting populace. We're assuming people will do their best to make an educated vote. So forget about that one. We're already fucking that one up. But the one that was more interesting is he said the other thing that could screw this country up is private interest. God, where did my focus go? Sorry. Well, maybe it'll come back here, or maybe it won't. What the fuck is going on with this thing? Weird. Anyway, he said factions, right? Like private interest. If private interest started weaseling their way into our governmental system, then this don't work anymore. And that's exactly, the minute corporations became beings according to our government, and lobbyists took over between the lawyers and the lobbyists, we're done. Yeah, it's a sad situation. I pray to God somehow we can learn from cannabis and not just repeat the same thing over and over again. But I have had a few history classes, and humanity does seem to keep wanting to do the wrong thing.
Let me explain. So this politician I went to speak to, I'm not sure like what their role was. I just got the call out the blue because her people knew who I was. And I just kind of gave them my talk. I'm not sure if I'm the only person that they spoke to, but I will tell you like this. It's the government, the way they work, whether it's local, federal, it doesn't matter. They've seen how much tax revenue cannabis generated, and they're not going to let that go. No. So regardless, I could tell how I feel things should be and what would be a perfect world in my eyes. But at the end of the day, dollars make sense to these people. And when they think about the opportunity of losing money, that's not a good thing. So in order for that to happen, the way that I was saying, it would have to be like something like where the cultivator goes in, brings the mushrooms in to, whatever the dispensary or the facilitator or this person or that person, whatever they want to call themselves. But they bring it in, and they would have to be documented like, hey, this person sold it. So everything would have to be on the books because you'd have to pay taxes from both ends. Right. And the government only cares about that. And obviously they care about safety, right? They don't want a bad PR situation where, like the poor girl in Amsterdam that jumped off the bridge and killed herself after she took mushrooms. And that's why they made mushrooms illegal in Amsterdam. It's like, they don't want that, right? Because now that's a bad look for the city or the state. And then also it's a bad look for us because it shows, it puts that bad taste back in people's mouths that don't know anything about mushrooms. Right. Yeah. They start saying, well, we told you guys, that's why it's been illegal all this time. You see, you guys make it legal and this is what happens. And I hate that. I hate when I see a news article come out like that pilot that tried to take down a plane saying that he was high on mushrooms. I think it's the most ridiculous thing. And it sets us back because the general public believe what's being said in that article versus, the few of us that are on platforms like this actually giving the truth. And they'll probably never meet me or they'll never meet you or anybody else out there creating content that actually gives them the truth. And they'll never look for the truth. See, people look for bias confirmation. They only research what confirms what they believe. And that's just what it is. They'll never like if a person believes that mushrooms are bad, they're never going to Google, are mushrooms good? What good are mushrooms doing? No, they're going to say, who's died off mushrooms this year? That's what they're going to Google. They're going to try to find the worst stories just to confirm their bias. That's it. 100%. And it's sad.
We do it. Everybody does it. Yeah, those core beliefs, right? That's what we want to see. It's like when I remember, I can't remember which car this was. I think I back in the day, I got that second year they reintroduced the Impala. I got it with the spoiler, man. I love that car. I put like 280,000 miles on that car. But when I first got it, I thought I was real special. Like, oh, I got this new, right? But then I just started seeing it everywhere. And I was like, is really just all of a sudden everybody's got this car now. I never saw the car before. And then I forget who I was talking to. They're like, nah, dude, it's like confirmation bias. It's like you weren't looking for it before. Now that you got that car, that's the car you're looking for. You're looking around. And we do that in everything. Yeah. We're if we believe in God, we're looking for proof. If we don't believe in God, we're looking for proof of that. Yep. That is definitely a human trait. But I like what you said. I really like what you said about separating the two licenses. I was just talking to a buddy down in Florida about how ugly that scene is down there and how there's like pretty much monopoly down there already because they got real slick with it. They knew how to play that structure, that legal structure that was in place. And yeah, hopefully, because we're still such in the early phase. We're still in the middle of it with cannabis, but we're definitely early phase with mushrooms. So hopefully, truly, really, with mushrooms, we can figure out how to let these dumbass corporations make a few bucks, but do it in a way that is more like real capitalism, real free market, and people have to work hard and have a good product. Yeah.
What I always
Hopefully.
say too is if we stick together as a community, like not just me and you, I'm saying like everybody
Yeah.
that's in this chat right now,
Yep.
everybody across the psychedelic plains and mushroom plains, all stick together and say, look, our voice is a lot bigger together than separated. And
Yep.
I always try to say, you got to remember, I came from the pharmaceutical world. I've been to these conferences, I see how things work. And I know for a fact that when inner bickering is happening, so when this side don't like this side and this person don't
Yeah.
like this person and fuck this team or that team, when we're all doing that, you know what's happening? These big corporations are going, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me,
Yep.
excuse me. And they're
Yep.
just moving their way up to the front. They're like, go ahead, let them idiots argue
Yep.
while we make our way to the front and we set up flags and we're good. And by the time we're done arguing, we turn around and we look and they're already there. So
Yeah.
what we have to realize is don't hate. There's a lot of haters out there that just hate to hate. There's a lot of people that don't see no joy in stuff unless they're fighting with people or it's this side against that side, like gang mentality or some shit.
Yeah.
Stick together and support each other and stand strong. And we could go up against some of these biggest corporations, but we can only do it if we're standing together. We can't do it if we're separated and divided. We can't. It's impossible.
Nope. And it's a bad look. It don't work. I mean, it's united we stand, divided we fall. I mean, that's it's like what is the physics equation for work, right? It's force applied in a given direction. If we're all going every which way, we're all just sort of moving around doing nothing. If we're all focused and we have a trajectory, we can actually get somewhere. So I love that, dude. I love that message. And I'll tell you, one of the favorite things that you said tonight was that piece in the beginning about, man, I just, it was no offense to anybody, but I just needed to be around positivity because I feel positivity breeds positivity. That's it right there, brother. That's the powerful message is what are we getting out of all this? What's the positive we're getting out of this? Let's focus on that. Let's keep that going. I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. It's all about positivity, man. I realized it made a big change in my life. When I made that decision to say, look, I'm gonna only surround myself with people that are positive. My entire life changed. I try not to engage in negative comments. You could see like if somebody writes a negative, I don't delete it. I just leave it, but I don't
Yeah.
entertain it either. I never have. I never will. And the reason why I don't entertain hate or negativity is because there's so many people out there that need help, that
Right.
need my attention or your attention because they're going through something in their lives at that very moment. And it only takes 2 seconds for you to interact with them to change their whole mindset or their whole life or their whole trajectory of where their life is going. So why would I give that 2 seconds to somebody that's negative or hateful when I could give it to somebody that really needs it at that moment? And that's how I always look at things. Like, it just is what it is. Like I don't care. Love me, hate me, I don't care. Most of the people that love me and hate me still watch my videos. Like, they still support me. It don't matter. It doesn't change anything in my life. At the end of the day, trust me, cut the negativity out of your life. You will be the happiest person. You see the most amazing changes happen around you. And that's just what it is, man. When I was around negative people, I've gotten shot at multiple times. I had a lot of friends that were doing shit they shouldn't be doing. Like, I could have lost my life many times over. And when I made that change, it was no disrespect to my friends, because I knew they had my back and that they loved me. But at the end of the day, I couldn't be around any of that because I didn't want to lose my life. I didn't want to see any of my friends lose their life. And I knew that that wasn't going to help me get to where I wanted to go as far as this space. So you just got to make a decision in your life to change. Trolling and hating and shit like that, you're never going to be nowhere. It's not going to do anything for you. You're never going to make a mark in this community. You're never going to make a mark in life if that's all you focus on. You're never going to hit your goals. And I'd rather see you hit your goals than hit an enter button on a keyboard.
Bro, when you just said that 2 seconds might be all that it takes for one other person, like, wouldn't you want to give that 2 seconds to that person? Yeah. Yes. We can't keep up with the people coming into different chat groups and Facebook groups and YouTube and Patreon and this, that, the other thing, whether it's a Reddit thread, it doesn't matter. People are flooding in here and they don't have an opinion of the space necessarily yet. They watched a Netflix special, or they heard Joe Rogan talking about it or something, or they accidentally found one of your videos or one of my podcasts, and the next thing you know, they go, oh, let's check this out. And like you said about your experience with the shroomery, if right away it's just a bunch of assholes, you're just like, wow, what is this? I thought this isn't what I thought it was going to be. We do have a different standard in this community because of the nature of what this community is about. You're right. We got to be about positivity. Has to be. Can't. Trolling, bro. Yes.
Do good, be good, live good. That's like my motto, man.
Yes.
Like, and I really believe every one of those words, and I try to live by that every day.
Yes.
I try to do good to the people, to the world, live good. So not only do I just project this, I put myself to these same standards. Like, I make sure that I don't just preach it, that I'm actually living it. And, be good. And, it's just be good. Be good to yourself. Be good to the people that you love. Be good to the people that you don't love. I wish nobody anything bad. I wish everybody the best. I want to see everybody succeed, be healthy and happy, and their families thrive. Like, and that's all I care about. I think that's the best thing in the world, man. Like, how many, like, what's crazy? I've been doing this for so long. I get thousands of messages across all my platforms every week. I try to respond to everybody that I can. Even if it's just a thank you or whatever. I can't get into these long conversations. Or I'd never leave my inboxes. I'd just be answering questions all the time, 24 hours a day. But over the years, I can count on my hands a couple times where people are like, Willie, you know what? When I first watched your videos, I hated you, or I didn't like you. And the more and more I watched, or the more and more I got to see you grow in this community and got to know who you are, like, bro, I love you. Like, you change, like, and I think that's the best, because it's like, people are so quick to write people off or to just dislike people. And a lot of times, and I have messages, I save it on my screensaver, just because this one of the people wrote to me, I was mad at you because you was doing what I wanted to do. Like, and it's like, I get it. Like, imagine in your mind, you're like, I want to do this, but I just don't know how to do it. And then someone starts doing it. It's like, fuck that guy. Like, I've been wanting to do this for years. You're doing exactly what I want to be doing, but instead I'm working at this place that I can't stand.
Right.
And I get it. So I sympathize with people too. And then it's like, but when they come to realize, like, man, it don't matter. There's enough space here for everybody. There's enough space. As long as you put in the work and you put the community first. I know for myself, Look at, yeah, I'm sure you've talked to a bunch of people on your podcast that have been like, Willie's a good dude. Like
Oh yeah.
when they were nobodies, nobody knew who they were. I was there helping them, talking to them. Like, they were always somebody's, but I'm saying in this space, nobody really knew their name. I took out the same amount of time I would talking to them as I would somebody that is the president or whatever. Same respect, right. same amount of time, like, Stinky Foot and Pinelli's Jones and like all these, Zerk from Brown Treasure, like, it's just organic conversations start. And like, these people are great people now. Look at the amazing work that they're doing and the things that they're doing within this community is mind blowing.
Love it, man. I love it. This was good, dude. This this is exactly what I wanted. You said up front before we got going, I was asking Willie if I could ask him this, that, and the other thing. He was like, I'm an open book tonight. Whatever you want to ask me, go for it. I was like, all right, we're doing this. So man, I love you for it. Like I said up front, you every time I've had a little question or need some mentorship or want some advice, you're happy to help out. You definitely follow your motto, that is for sure. I have seen you be good on multiple occasions, and many people in my server proudly talk about the Trip Team family and tell people about it. And I even though we're pretty much a non-promotional server, that is in our server, it's all good. We got so many people from the Trip Team family there that we're proud to have them cross-pollinating some of that positivity, because it's
absolutely
they really, the people that are diehard Trip Team fam, good people, not stabbing anybody in the back, not worrying about bull crap, just positive, talking about growing mushrooms. Just what we like. Yep. So I love that. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much. You guys, if you have not watched the LSD synthesis videos, go check it out. But beyond that, he's got a couple videos there. You might learn a few things. I have talked to many a person who said, I don't think you understand how much awesome content is on that Patreon. Go check it out. I did. They were right. It's there. All you gotta do. Access is not complicated. There's nobody. The guy that asked you for spare change yesterday on the street can afford to join Willie's Patreon. So don't convince yourself in your mind that you can't afford $2. We waste $2 every day, and I don't care what economic level you're at. So if you want great content, if you enjoy, you're like, God damn it, I've watched all the MycoGeeky shit, I need more shit, go to Willie's Patreon. He has got a lot of content there for you.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, over 200 videos exclusive to Patreon, man. It's crazy.
And what I really admire is I've watched, just in the last 4 years, I've just watched the content get a little sparklier, a little cleaner, lit a little better. I can tell, like, you actually take pride in the content. You're always working to improve it. And I definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Doing the work, putting your money where your mouth is. I love it. All right, dude. Well, this was great. I feel like I know you a little bit better. I loved hearing all the early stuff. The stuff about your uncle is pretty touching. Really glad that you had your aunt and uncle in your life, because, who knows if you'd be here otherwise. So shout out to those important people in your life. And go tell your mom thanks for telling you about mushrooms, man.
I'll make sure I tell her, man. And I just want to say thanks, brother, for hosting me. And I love the show. And anytime I could be there for the Geeky family, you let me know. I'm there, man, without question. And to my Trip Team family out there that's watching, I fucking love you guys. You guys know that. You're my world, my heart. I love you. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. You take care. You have a good night.
All right, brother. Sounds good, man.
All right. See ya.
All right. See ya, buddy.
All right, guys, the one and only WillyMyco. I just want to take a minute and say he did it. He did those things, right? Like mom told him about some experiences she had. He said, "I'm interested." He was just naturally hungry for answering some of these questions and connecting to some of the stuff he wanted answers for, and ultimately found a lot of solace and a lot of comfort and a lot of illumination, a lot of epiphanies, a lot of gratification in the realm of psychedelic education. And thank God he did. He has done a lot for a lot of people. I just want to say that right now in our community, there are a lot of people showing up. And if this is you, sorry but not sorry. If you're watching the show, if you're asking people questions, if they're teaching you and mentoring you and helping you out and helping you become a strong grower very rapidly, and then you just magically forget about everybody and you try to go, look at my trick, look at this, look what I do, and you're not paying homage to the people who took the time to help you out, then there's no reciprocity there. You become a user. And like Willie said, live good, be good, namaste, right? You can't it don't work. It don't work long term. So you can use people over and over and over again, but it's in here. You know what's going on. You don't sleep well. You don't feel good about yourself. And then the next thing you know, you're one of these trolls on the internet being just a jackass all the time. Just an asshole because it's the only way you can feel good about yourself. Don't do that. Positivity. Let's help each other out. Let's if there's a beef, let's squash the beef. Let's move on. Let's work together. Let's see what we can accomplish as a community. I think all those messages are pretty amazing. Anyway, I don't know about you. I'm looking forward to the MDMA synthesis. I think that'll be pretty cool. Thank you for showing up. It was a good episode. I got some pretty exciting guests coming up. I can't tell you who yet because I want it to be a big surprise, but there are going to be some pretty epic guests coming up here. We're going to go a little bit deeper than we have on some topics, and we're going to continue to get more into the softer side this year. A lot more integration, a lot more how do we approach therapy. Let's hear about some trip experiences. But from the framework of what do you do with a powerful trip experience? How do you integrate that? What does some of that stuff look like? More science, more Ocracio-Centrata talk. We're going to do all that, more DNA sequencing. We're just going to try to keep giving you guys stuff to chew on and think about and continue to enjoy loving mushrooms so that, you guys can keep growing them. So. Speaking of that, go grow some mushrooms, guys.